Welcome, everyone. This is AllMinusOne, and my name is Bill. I hope you had a Merry Christmas or a great Festivus for the rest of us. Or perhaps you are celebrating the Marxist holiday of Kwanzaa. I don't know. But that started today. So let's read about that real quick. It's the only time I'm going to address Kwanzaa on the show. I just thought it'd be nice to look into where it came from real quick, since today is the first day of Kwanzaa that I don't think anybody celebrates except for Kamala Harris, who obviously was lying about celebrating it because she was a little kid and the origins are quite new. So Kwanzaa was first celebrated in 1966. And then this Malana Kerrigan created Kwanzaa in 1966 during the aftermath of the Waltz riots that was in LA as a specific African American holiday. Karenga said his goal was to give Blacks an alternative to the existing holiday of Christmas and give Blacks an opportunity to celebrate themselves for their history rather than simply imitate the practice of the dominant society. Yet you had to put it around the other holidays. And frankly, like, why, like, Christianity is not exclusive to any race. So why are you, yeah, it's this is the whole CRT whiteness thing way back in the day, right? Anyways, um, he says he was a major figure in the Black Power movement of the 60s and 70s. The creation of such holiday also underscores the essential premise that you must have a cultural revolution before the violent revolution. The cultural revolution gives identity, purpose, and direction. Now, my friends, if there is one quote on Wiki that is quite important to what we see today of things that started, at least on the street level, more hardcore during the 60s and 70s. The academic level was pushing things forward long before that, which is how it got to the street level in the first place. And then, of course, the global elites, or those who wish to become the global elites and who wish to pull power unto themselves, well, they really are the ones who started setting up the processes and allowing these things to happen, or pushing them in the right direction. We're going to talk about that here in a little bit. But yeah, the cultural revolution has been going on, and these people do have their identities, and it's based in nothing. It's based in seemingly immutable characteristics. We could have a debate about the homosexual issue, but regardless if that's immutable or something that happens to people or whatever, we don't really fully know. There is evidence in science that there might be genetic factors, including things like brain scans. I've talked about it before on here. But regardless, these people are boiling their whole identities down to a point of their immutable characteristics. So I'm a black man, therefore, you know, I am I am oppressed, right? Or I'm gay, therefore I'm oppressed, and you have to do all these things to bow down to me. So, and this is a problem. This is a problem, in my opinion. I'm short. I'm a short guy. I'm a manlet. I don't make everyone bow down to me because of that. I don't make the tall people hack off their legs or kneel to me or whatever, so that we can be on equal footing. Nor do I wear stilts either. So it's like this is a problem. I mean, we cannot have a functioning society that runs this way. In any case, let's see, Dahari's sitting here giving me some messages. He said, "Been there, done that. Older bachelor, not young whippersnapper." Ah, yeah. And they said, or the child abuse issues. The other thing was in the comments. If you guys are watching this later, you don't have the chat on. I was asking him how his Christmas was, and he said, "Oh, the bachelor life," which I don't know what that is. I've had a child since I was 23. I was a single dad for a long time. I was single. I've had lots of girlfriends, but it's not really the bachelor life when you have a kid and your focus has got to be your kid and you got to work and you know, I mean, everyone needs to work to survive, of course, but when you have a child, you tend to want to work a little extra. You can't live so Spartanly, perhaps. A guy like me who though I enjoy luxuries, I certainly prefer to live more Spartan. So, um, but yeah, so there was that. In any case, that's not what the show's about today. The show is going to be about all kinds of things because that's the Sunday Siesta stream. But I did want to do some housekeeping as I normally do when I first come in and just let you guys know that I don't think I'll be streaming at all this week on this channel, but I am going to try to do the Insta Justify the Memes, whether Tank is with me or not. And I will try to figure that out in the next few days or to get a co host. But I am going to be starting this new job that I have. So I'm going to be working evenings, and I want to let that kind of settle in and work itself out for at least a week before I try to do both things. I should be able to because my manager is working with my schedule quite well. And the other part of that is my daughter needs a ride to work, and my wife is out of town um, with the baby and everything. So I might actually get some sleep, which is great. It's wonderful. But um, because I certainly didn't get any sleep the past 3 days. But I yeah, I want to be able to focus on that primarily, and I'm just gonna fall back into it. I'm hoping again after the first of the year I'll be more consistent. My apologies for canceling last week. Like I said, my wife's dog died. My wife's brother came from down from Chicago, and his dog apparently his roommate had to take in and was nearly on its last leg, and he headed home this morning to go take care of that. So, unfortunate news if you're an animal lover, but in any case, so yeah, no streams here this week, just this one. I'll be back next Sunday, the Siesta stream. You guys, regardless of what I do throughout the week, I'm really trying to make Sunday right now the day because it is the easiest day for me to stream for sure with consistency. But I do want to do the throughout the week streams. I enjoy streaming and it helps me gather my thoughts. It helps me when I say things incorrectly or wrongly. I don't always go back and watch the show. In fact, I don't very often anymore. But when I do or I think about what I was saying, I start going, maybe I shouldn't have said that. Maybe I needed to be a little bit more clear here. I should be more accurate. So it helps me improve myself. And this is just a journey, guys. I'm not here to tell you that everything I have to say is gospel. I'm just trying to make an argument for what I see, and you could take that for what it is. Um, you don't have to agree with me 100%, of course. Uh, I don't know anyone who does that. Every time I do that. In any case, if you guys didn't know, there is an Entropy linked in the description. Entropy is a streaming service. It's actually kind of like a restreaming service and allows you to give paid chats. It's just a simple way for you guys to donate to me. Of course, there's a PayPal, a Subscribe Star. There are things. Honestly, if anyone has gotten on the Subscribe Star, I'll check after the stream today, but I haven't even checked on there in a while. I know who's on there, who's providing, but if anyone isn't, and I haven't worked a lot with that platform yet, but I do have tiers set up. If you guys want to be big donators, I will do something special for you because it's appreciated. What you guys provide certainly helps me out. Me taking a job is just a matter of, well, inflation's going up. um, and we're about to talk about that. And the economy is just really bad right now. It's going to continue to get worse. And we have some debts we want to pay down and liquidate. And I want to get in a better financial, or not liquidate, but get paid down and get our credit a little bit built up because I basically have bad credit at the moment because I injured myself and couldn't pay my bills, even though I had perfect credit my entire life until that happened. But credit card companies, they don't care. So regardless, or any credit company, because those are the things that happen. They don't care. You could be of impeccable credit your whole life, but the minute you can't pay or whatever, they will just totally crush you. That's what they do. But yeah, so and it's not a lot, but it's again, it's to help my family out, and it's probably going to be for my own sanity because we're here all the time together, and sometimes you need a break from your loved ones, even though you love them. It's like it's hard to be around some people all the time, and I'm getting a break from my wife right now. Not that I really need one, um, but it's a good week to start this job pretty hardcore. So, anyways. enough of me rambling about that. Dahari said, I watched the Kim.com doc this morning. Interesting take on privacy and attempted overreach by the US government. So they thought. I'll have to look into that. I don't know what that is, partner. So I hadn't heard about that. But I've been in Christmas mode the last few days, with the season. And then of course Festivus was the 23rd. And we're gonna talk about Festivus a little bit here. So what do I got? What do I got for today? We have from Axios, the White House memo. You're better off now. Did you guys know this? Oh, Dahari, I certainly will check it out, bud. Yeah. In fact, just so I can make sure I don't forget, because I am tired. I'll throw that up there so other people could see it. Okay. I just did a little search on it over here on my other screen, so. So, the White House press corps, whatever, released this, hey, you're doing better off now than you were under Trump. Now, how many of you feel that? Do you feel like you're doing a lot better now than under Trump? And we could talk about how the inflation started under Trump. We're going to talk about other things that Trump did that wasn't good. I mean, I've been on Peter Schiff's team for a long time. I think Peter Schiff is a very intelligent economist or, financial market expert and tends to get things right. But Peter Schiff's an Austrian, that is, School of Economics. And I would place myself in that school as well. So, at the same time, I get practical realities of folks like Donald Trump doing the things that he did that he seemed to think were going to be beneficial for the whole of our society. And in a lot of ways, they seem to have been. I certainly, in my household, we felt the benefits of the Trump economy. And I'm going to show you how the mainstream media undercuts what he did in that time period. And we're going to talk about some things. So the White House will send a year-end recap to Democrats on the Hill and allied groups arguing that Americans are better off after 1 year of President Biden than when President Trump left office. Why it matters? The memo 2021 POTUS delivered results for working families uses data from to frame Biden's year one as a season of accomplishment despite the collapse of the Build Back Better at the end of the year. That was an accomplishment, not having the Build Back Better come through. But trust me, it's just going to get pushed again in some other manner. And we're going to talk a little bit about that neo-feudalistic system here when I get done with the other news stories. Future metrics include vaccinations, school openings, unemployment, economic growth, and child poverty. Here's a graphic from the memo provided to Axios. So I don't really care to look at these graphics. You guys can look at it. I'm just going to read the article real quick, and we're going to look at some other stuff. Oh, hey, Shelly. Thanks for showing up. Here for a bit. Well, too bad. It says, Dahari said the uncertainty is destroying the lower middle class in terms of direction. Yeah. Well, I don't know. My thoughts on it. I would say, I mean, you watch the weekly narrative regularly. My thoughts are pretty close to what Jeremy thinks, although I think that Jeremy doesn't think that a lot of the wokeness is as maybe controlled, or certain things are as controlled because the go woke get broke thing. So we have a few differences, but yeah, these folks, they have been destroying the middle class for a long time. They've been fleecing America. And I think I really believe at this point that Trump wasn't supposed to improve the economy the way that he did, at least by their plans, and therefore they had to get him out. Because there is evidence to suggest that conspiratorial evidence, mind you. I don't know if it's legitimate, but that the Wuhan lab leak thing might have been purposeful because that they were going to release that bioweapon eventually. No, again, that's pure speculation. That seems to be the case to my mind. I have a certain worldview, though. So maybe I am totally wrong. Maybe I am just loony. Who knows? But uh, it seems like it was genetically engineered for a reason, and I don't think it was just gain of function, uh, research. So just saying. On the other side, Republicans who are expected to win the House gavel in the next year's midterms are planning a slew of investigations of the Biden administration. As Axios revealed this week, House Republicans say that if they win, they will use subpoena power to investigate the Afghanistan withdrawal, immigration, the IRS, and National Security Agency, and more. It says see list. That's another article from Axios I'm actually going to bring up here in a bit. But let's go over to what the New York Post had to say about this. You are better off than you were 1 year ago. That's the message the White House is trying to convey in a year-end memo to the Democrat lawmaker and other supporters, according to the new report from Axios. The memo titled, we just read all that. The two-page document touts the COVID vaccine program, widespread reopenings of schools, and decline in unemployment rates and jobless claims. So, efficacy in the vaccine is very sketchy, and there are issues with it. They just pulled Johnson and Johnson the other week. That is, the CDC recommended that folks not get it anymore. The vaccine had huge issues with the Delta variant. Again, if I have time today, we might talk about that some. But the whole idea that he reopened schools, well, Trump was wanting to do that. And frankly, the presidents don't dictate that. The governors do. The states do. Because schooling is a right to the people in the states under the 9th and 10th Amendment. It is not in any way, shape, or form dictated or allowed to be dictated by the federal government, despite us having an unconstitutional Department of Education. So it says the widespread reopening of schools and a decline in unemployment rates. The unemployment rates declined because people went back to work after businesses reopened. Like, come on, man. It all hails the passage of the two major spending bills this year. The 2019 trillion American Rescue Package in March and the 1.2 trillion bipartisan infrastructure frame last. Yeah. Despite unprecedented crisis, opposition from congressional Republicans. Yeah, because you're blowing up the inflationary numbers even more when you spend all this money at the top. That's what happens. That's how this works. This is the process. This is why they objected to it. It's why Manchin objected to it, despite everyone calling him a racist and whatever else. And by the way, West Virginia has a very small black population. I actually live in the area. West Virginia has like the highest black population. And I forget what it is around here. It might be 15, 20% or something like that. Most of West Virginia is like down around 1%. So I don't think it's because he's racist, unless he's racist against every other black or brown person in every other state. I think it's because he understands that when inflation hits in already dilapidated West Virginia, people are going to need to be taken care of, put on welfare, and there's going to be massive problems in a state that doesn't have a huge amount of infrastructure, something that needs to change. No, I keep saying this, and I promise I will. The holidays, create a problem, but I will talk to some people. I will be having some people on in the near future about West Virginia. It's my state. I'm going to talk about my state, guys. So despite it, if you live here or not, because I want to make West Virginia a state that is a bastion of liberty, because I think it has a ton of potential and opportunity. And it's just a matter of it's kind of got rugged terrain, so people don't generally like that. It has no big cities. People don't generally like that. But we can change that. Those things can change. And I don't necessarily want big cities. And I necessarily don't want a huge population influx, but I do want an area that is free from the federal government, and or largely free from the federal government, and a bastion of liberty, a shining beacon. And we could say New Hampshire is that to some degree, but it's a tiny state. There's a lot more land here. So that's the thing, and we can become a self-sufficient state, in my opinion. We just have to understand how to accomplish that with our modern technology. Dahari says, I like a bit of hard line with their hard. I'll just pull it up here. I take a bit of a hard line on what they are doing. The left playing the long game. Yeah, they're definitely playing a long game. They have been. Uh, Trump wasn't supposed to win. Him addressing the big issues, trade, border taxes, etc., ruin their plans, which is why they need to end Trump to include China, hence the virus. I agree with you. I think Trump was more just not fully competent. He didn't, I don't think, realize how the degree to the rot that was in the system. You guys have to understand Trump and his legacy in New York. What he's been ensconced with the political system there because they tried to keep him from running his businesses well and getting certain tax breaks and other things that are good for businesses. They didn't want to do that. Now he won on those most of the time, but so he had some understanding of how government makes the business world difficult, more difficult than it probably should be. But the other thing about him is that people, like I said, are going around. They're going around saying no, he was a shill, he was a plant. Remember, he did the vaccine thing. Well, why wouldn't he believe that? If one of his advisors, who, if he trusts the experts, if he's not a skeptic like I am, I mean, I'm highly skeptical, obviously, of all of this stuff. Why wouldn't he just go ahead and trust that the vaccine's going to work? I said from day one, I didn't think if they came up with one, I said one, they wouldn't, but if they did, it wouldn't work. According to certain people, um, they were already working on this vaccine. Which seems a little strange, doesn't it? Trump never pushed any mandate that was done at state level. Yep. Um, Chilligod said, as far as financial markets, the one step forward, two steps backward seems to be the generational trend. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. It's the idea of locking things down and squeezing it till it's unbearable, and saying, "Oh, we need some free market relief." But that relief is just taking your foot off the gas a little bit. You're still applying the gas. You're just not, or the brakes or whatever Sorry, guys, if I'm going to be rambling today because I am tired, very tired. But yeah, they're putting the pressure on and just barely relieving it, I think, is the analogy I was trying to make. And that little bit of relief seems to be like this uptick in the economy. This is exactly what happened in the Biden-Obama in the Obama administration. Big Nick, Merry Christmas, bud, or Festivus for the rest of us. Your little sister lives in Virginia. Absent of from the document is any mention of inflation, which is a 39-year high, nor is there any discussion of the increase of the COVID-19 cases across the country as the Omicron variant becomes the dominant strain. We don't know that. Now maybe we will know that, but they're not testing necessarily which variant it is. The health minister of Canada, I've said numerous times now on here, very specifically said that just every COVID case we see now, we're going to count as Omicron, which means the data will get mixed. If people start dying of other variants like Delta and it's Omicron, it's the silly games that they play. It's just all just minor sleight of hand too, and it to me it seems so overt. The collapse of the multi-trillion-dollar Build Back Better plan after Joe Manchin pulled his support, or the tragic aftermath of the botched U.S. military withdrawal from Afghanistan. So it didn't talk about any of those things. And then, while the memo argues that the White House helped tackle the supply chain crisis and have the numbers of container ships waiting to be relocated to the ports, well, not according to Judge Schroeder in the Rittenhouse case. Anyways, he's saying they're still there. Yeah, waiting to be unloaded this November. Critics say that it's a fudge based on the shipping rules, or argue that the backlog hasn't gotten any better. Yada yada yada. In any case, the economy is not doing great. They don't really get into it. This is just about the memo, but showed you Axios. I'll show you New York Post. New York Post is a little bit obviously, well, very much more conservative leaning or right leaning, and Axios. I tend to find Axios left leaning, but middle center left. You know, um, so here was under the Trump era, and again, I'm not like some huge big MAGA guy. I didn't vote for Trump the first time. I did the second time, but I knew all this stuff was going to happen or something like this would happen. If Biden got in and I wanted Trump to try and make things right in his own way. I didn't think he was a fascist and all the other things that people were saying. Fascism's long been in this nation, and the neoliberals uphold it. So you know, middle class income up 4,100 under Trump, rose only 1K under Obama and Bush, according to economist Stephen Moore. So I've talked about this before. I've seen other data that said the actual real numbers with inflation was about $150 because there was a rise in income and then a drop in income and real spending money, real purchasing power. So this is from the Western Journal. This is a few years ago. And then just to highlight again, you can find this around. Thanks to Trump, medium household income at highest ever. And it shows you that raise right there. And there's a lot of data on this. So what do left wing economists have to do generally you can't let the right wing win? And don't get me wrong, guys, when the government, most of these guys, any of these guys, and this isn't the government necessarily doing these studies, but I'll show you that they'll start to take government data. When they're doing this, the government doesn't put out accurate data. They don't. When they look at inflation, they look at like the price of bread, eggs, milk, and like that's like it. Maybe gas is factored in there. I don't recall, but there's not very many factors. We're constantly trying to manipulate the markets through releasing bonds and stuff. They do all kinds of games behind the scenes to kind of balance the whole thing, and all we've seen is a steady rise of inflation over the last 50 years since we've gotten rid of Bretton Woods. Now, I don't think that was the best deal either, but when I hear people talk about this, they're like, well, the markets will never crash, the economy never crash, we can just do whatever, we have the military might. If you can't pay your military, I promise you, they will not be there any longer. Um, the bottom line is that the UN, the IMF, that's did I say International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, all that stuff, they are the ones who really dictate what the world currency is. And if you look at banking data right now, China, now a lot of people say they're a paper tiger, but China has the biggest banks. They seem to have the most roaring economy, and the world likes that system. The world elite, the world leaders, they like that system because when some guy like me who just wants to be left alone and wants freedom for all, and actually, if you want to go, I don't agree with socialism, but if you want to go have your little socialist state, I'm actually okay with you going to have it off in your corner of the world. I just don't want it put on me. But when they when they hear these ideas, they're like, "Ah, we don't like this. We need to be able to disappear this person." And they're not going to do that to me. I don't have some sort of audience to do that, right? But I'm just saying, this is what they do in China. You say something bad about the government, they go, "Boop, you're gone." You do something they don't like in any way, shape, or form, and they lock you up and make you disappear. And it frankly, if there is if you're a factory owner and the CCP tells you that you're going to stop producing what you produce now and you're going to switch over to something else and you don't do it, they're going to replace you. That's how it works. And they dictate what they want to manufacture. I don't think that that's the best way. I certainly don't think it's humane to treat people like that. And you know, um, this is again really what we're getting to in the whole idea of the Great Reset. This is what they're pushing for in the Great Reset. You start reading Klaus Schwab's stuff. You start looking at the World Economic Forum's um, conversations, and you see their roots and their origins. You have to go all the way back to the 70s, and you start to read what they want there, and you look at how they align with the UN and the 2030 agenda. So this is really it. And if you look at people who understand the Chinese system a lot better too, and they're really into it, and they've done a lot of travel and trade over there and whatever else. I mean, they'll tell you this. This is how this happened. To some degree, they got this implemented and working. I think somewhat purposefully, because the timing of the U.S. dollar being taken off the gold reserve standard, the foreign exchange reserve standard, that is, um, and China being opened up is just too coincidental for me. Too coincidental. So, hello, Holly. Omicron Series 3. We all know it's a Class M planet. Sheesh. Housing prices here shot up by 30% in 1 year. That's crazy. I mean, my house is up hugely. It's I think it's about $60,000 of the market price that I bought it at, and I've lived here 7 years, and it might be higher than that right now. And this area particularly has a ton of construction from people fleeing Northern Virginia, DC, and Maryland. Since we got rid of the gold standard, that's right, Dahari. And China owns mineral rights all over the globe and the currency building infrastructure. Money makes the world go round? I don't think so. I mean, I'm not a materialistic person. I like things like the next person, but I'd much rather have a good quality of life. And the older I get, what I've found is that my quality of life is certainly better when I don't live to work, but work so that I can live. Um, I'd much rather live a Spartan life, a simple life, and a life that has hard work involved, but I can do what I please than have to be in the system. But that's me. I'm like an ultra kind of libertarian person. I never, I always find my pack, but I'm generally kind of a lone wolf, if you would. Always going on the heterodox path. China owns mineral rights. Yeah, I read that. Like the tennis player, she was too well known to get rid of bad global PR. Uh, I don't, I don't know what this is a reference to. Just say depends on how far up Route 81 you are. DuPont, the big VA, and medical facility. Yeah, I live near that, so not to dox myself, but I don't think it'd be a great idea if someone showed up here either. uh, oh yeah, my dreams online, sweet. All right, so again, this article shows some things, yada yada yada. Guys, bear with me. You know how I am. It's even worse when I'm tired. So, from the Joint Economic Committee, we have Congresswoman Carol Maloney, the vice chair, released this. Uh, and man, is this dated? Because I forget the date. This just came out recently, like 2020 or something. Is it true that incomes have risen $5,000 under Trump? President Trump has repeatedly claimed that median household income is up 5 grand since he took office, and that he has worked magic with the economy. Well, I can tell you, I could tell you, I know the difference. Back when uh, during the 2008 market crash, uh, when my ex-wife and I were making 80 grand together a year, like I can tell you there wasn't much of a difference initially, and then I would see it when I would go out to shoot pool and the price of beer went up pretty quick. But it's gotten worse over the years, and people have been tracking this. And then we had 60 some odd, 66, 70% of all money ever printed since the 1980s printed last year. So regardless of whatever pay raises might be real or unreal and money going up, your money's been devalued. It doesn't mean anything. But they're just claiming straight up, well, it didn't even happen. I don't know. We were doing pretty good under Trump. Um, Again, the guy had a lot of issues, things I don't always agree with, but I backed the guy because I didn't like the other option. And that was the first guy. That's the first president I backed in. a long time. I voted for Ron Paul the last couple times, or didn't vote at all, actually, in Hillary Trump. So I abstained. This claim was cited first by the right-wing economist Stephen Moore, who recently wrote in Real Clear Politics that the medium or average income family has seen a gain of $5,003 since Trump came into office. Variations have been repeated by the vice president, Fox News personalities, such as Stuart Varney, policy analysts at the Heritage Foundation, and others. Well, the Heritage Foundation is pretty good. I'm pretty sure they wouldn't have screwed that up, but sure. Let's see you, you know, let's see you do your gymnastics here. The president later further inflated the number, claiming that the increase to 7,000 when tax cuts are included and 10,000 when factories and supposed savings from deregulation. Perhaps, I don't know. So, and the Washington Post fact checkers gave him 2 Pocahontas. Well, they're opinion checkers, so I don't really care. The official government statistic report only a $140,000 increase, or 140,000. That would be awesome. A $1,400 increase over the first 2 years of the Trump administration. The most reliable data about household income is reliable. I am quite tired today, guys, but I am going to stream regardless. Income is released annually by the U.S. Census Bureau, which in September reported that inflation adjusted median household income in 2018 was $63,179. This represents the increase. Okay. And it says, however, this does not include the period from January 19th through the present. Yes. This is how they weasel out of this. The pandemic, just all of that stuff that happened before, gone. The pandemic got rid of it all. And therefore, Trump didn't do anything. But the lockdowns were manufactured. You guys do know Japan didn't lock down, right? Like, there are people that have shut down. The government gave advisories and stuff, but they didn't lock down. Because in Japan, they take their constitution seriously. They didn't really lock down in Korea either. South Korea, not North Korea. Same with Sweden, right? Now, the Swedes had some measures, just like I said, sort of like suggestions, but they had measures. Some people didn't go to school, some businesses didn't open, but they left it up to the people. And something I find really annoying, I understand how irresponsible people are, but I really do find it annoying when people are like, well, Americans just can't be trusted to be that responsible. That's an elitist opinion. I have worked with the worst of the worst people in the world. I really have. I mean, go work in a jail for a while. Not maybe if you work in a like super hick area, like there's no population, you're not going to get, but a few inmates every, so often or whatever. But I lived in not a huge area, but a big enough area that was a drug corridor. And I know I've met a lot of terrible people and the worst of the worst. And those people are going to do what they want to do. And everyone else seemed to just fall in line. I think Americans would have been perfectly reasonable and responsible. So we had we have 70% vaccination compliance right now in the U.S. I'm more than certain. Was it Carnegie Mellon was I believe it was them. I've covered it in the past. We're tracking mask mandates and compliance well over 90% in almost every state. And, we have examples now where places like Florida are doing really well. Now, Florida it is the sunshine state, could be the sun, could be the extra vitamin D. But I think what we've really seen in all of this is that we're not a healthy people. I think that's the big difference that we've seen in Japan, because their death rates are very low and they are a healthy people, generally speaking, in comparison to us. Now, they have other issues like high suicide rates, but they don't have the amount of cancer and heart disease that we have, and diabetes and liver failure and everything else that people have in the West, because we are hedonistic. We don't temper ourselves ever, and we need to. The increase during the last 2 years of the Obama administration was 3 times larger. The annual data showed the median household income increased $4,800 during the last 2 years of the Obama administration, more than 3 times greater than during the first 2 years of the Trump administration. I'll read that again real quick. The increase during the last 2 years of the Obama administration was 3 times larger. I don't think so. No one, except for maybe in business, in certain business, was feeling that at home because I, my friends, am a blue collar worker. So I can speak to that because I am surrounded by those people and what they feel and what they see. Could those people be wrong? Absolutely. But you know what? You know what? When you have extra money in the bank account, when you can buy more things, when you can go out and do more, it tends to show, right? You tend to be able to see. You don't have to really do analytics on it. So the $500,000 or $500,000, the $5,000 figure, I'm going to keep doing that apparently, uh, is based on monthly data, which are less reliable than annual figures. This is not the widely accepted official annual statistic of household income, but is produced by a private firm based on less accurate monthly data from the Census Bureau's current population survey. The monthly survey has small sample size and includes only one question about income, while the annual survey has a much larger sample size and asks many precise questions about income. Well, look, guys, we can look at all the unemployment rates, all the other stuff. We saw that over and over, again during the Trump administration. Excuse me. I don't. I know the White House wants to make you believe that we're doing better by saying that they saved you 68 cents and on Thanksgiving this year, or not Thanksgiving. Was it Thanksgiving? 4th of July for sure. It was like 68 cents. And turkeys or something were cheaper if you could get one because there is no supply chain shortage going on. I mean, and again, people will say, well, it's the pandemic. It's the pandemic. It's the pandemic. Yeah, they will. They will. But, you know, is it really, or is it our reaction? Is it the mass psychosis that's going on to something that I am uh, thoroughly being convinced as was, at least until now, perhaps it's different, far less contagious than we originally thought. And Omicron seems to be highly contagious, but not very lethal. So that's the way these things should trend. But then they want to get everyone vaxxed, which then has the possibility of, well, it is a leaky vaccine. It has the possibility of doing something crazy like Merrick's disease, where everyone who's not vaxxed dies instantaneously when they get the disease. But the data then seems to show that otherwise, if you're vaxxed or not, doesn't really matter. And I'll cover that here in a bit if I have time today, because that has been in the news. Of course, that's been around forever, but it seems to be, they're owning up to it now because there's scientific research behind it. And once there's a research paper behind it, then suddenly, magically, is the data is real, even though before the data was plain and clear and right in front of our faces. It had to be peer reviewed. Okay. But because of these methodological shortcomings, the monthly numbers can be volatile. For example, showing the household income skyrockets almost $2,000 from May through August, an increase of this magnitude, blah, blah, blah. And again, it goes on. And, it's just a bunch of stuff that I don't know. I'm boring myself looking at it. If I had more than a couple hours of sleep the last few nights in a row, I probably would be less bored with this. But it's just like what they essentially have done, and I have this in several things, is they've taken Trump's presidency and after a while, right before the pandemic hit, right, the media was starting to finally acknowledge that the economy was doing really good. But they've taken this and they've basically completely reversed course and said, well, something out of his control is his fault, and the economy, didn't do that well under Trump because of this last year. And like I said, it largely wasn't in his control. Like, to the point that the states are the ones that decided to lock down. So I see chat going. So let me catch up what's going on here in chat. Let me check over on Entropy real quick, make sure no one's over there. Well, I got a viewer, but no chats. So back up here to housing prices from, okay. Holly said, it's funny here, the meat prices have gone down considerably over the last 2 weeks. Yeah, I would stock up too, Holly. Meat's getting really expensive, very expensive. And I'm a guy who eats, I'm a hyper carnivore. I eat like 80, 70% of my diet, maybe even 90% of my diet's animal based. So, um, you know, let's see. Oh, okay. That got removed. All right, so I work for a company that had customers up that way is why I know. Ah, okay. My brother also had a house that way at one point. Okay, cool. Um, Budgie Burger says, you're doing a good job and I'm 5 hours ahead. Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's whatever, dude. I'm just tired. And I'm not gonna be most of my streams used to this because I have sleeping issues, but I'm particularly tired today. I was going to go down to my job tonight and do some training. I actually volunteered. I just told him I said a lot of the stuff I can do at home through video stuff. So I'm gonna do the video stuff here, not get paid for it, and then go down tomorrow. But I was like, I'm not trying to do a bunch of like OJT stuff and not remember any of it because my brain's fried because I haven't had a good night's sleep in 3 nights. Don't get me wrong. I mean, it's the holidays. I kind of expect that. It's fun, you know. You get to have drinks. Yeah, you can see family. Presents. I got a little one that didn't mean as much for her, but it was fun to watch her around everybody because when there's a bunch of people around, she acts a little bit different than when she's around just my wife and I, right? I went to church and reminded why I don't like going to that church because they were stuff. They were stuff. And I think there are good people there, and I think they actually do a lot of good community outreach. I think their theological positions are strange to me. They're not very solid, and you know, I think the ecclesia should come together. The assembly comes together uh, in order to uplift each other. And when you don't have your spirituality right and your theology is a part of that, mind you, then you're not providing the service that you're supposed to be providing because the church should be a as often said a hospital for the soul, right? It should mend your soul and uplift you or whatever. And you can't do that when you don't know what you're teaching, when you're confused. And I'm not like never grew up Catholic or anything like that or Orthodox, but I read the early church fathers, and they made a mockery of the Eucharist the other day, and I was like, I told my dad, I was like that. I said, if anyone from the first 2 or 3 centuries had seen that in the church, they would have denounced this church as heretics. But if I'm sure you've all seen the Catholics with the squirt gun, the Catholic priest with the squirt gun shooting Holy Communion into people's mouths. So whatever. Uh, anyways, North Korea accused the West of transporting again Rocket Man or transpiring, I guess, conspiring against them or something like that. Yeah, you guys in your chats being discombobulated. I do the same thing though. Well paid for gas to get to Thanksgiving dinner. Don't cough until you're coughing. Propaganda in the media seems to have the majority of people believing the BS. Well, yeah. Well, it's a matter of time efficiency, right? Like for your average person, like I'm nothing special, but I know I'm not built like other people because I literally, I'm constantly trying to plan things in my life. I'm trying to reach goals. I'm constantly trying to live and drive my own life, right? And most people are being driven by other outside forces and just going through the motions. So, and so they don't have time, and they trust news sources for I don't know what reason. Was it the Gilman amnesia effect? You read one story, you're like, that's nonsense, and then you trust the next one. They're trying to make Brandon a hero with his "Let's go after the young kids," increase the fear factor for kids up to 5. Yeah. All right. All right. Caught up there. All right. So I found this too. This was from last year. So Trump versus Obama economy in 16 charts. And I'll bigly this a little bit for you guys, for myself too. We're going to make it bigly. It's going to be huge. As the United States suffers the worst economic downturn in nearly a century, key questions remain. How quickly can the nation recover, and who has the better track record to get us there? The dire job losses from the spring are close to half recovered, but 13.6 million workers remain unemployed. Stocks are back near record highs, but food bank lines are long and evictions in parts of the country are growing. The 2020 presidential election will be at least partially about the economy. President Trump urges the economy, or sorry, argues or urges. Can I read? I don't know. The economy was soaring pre-pandemic and can no, that's yeah, and can bring it back again. While former Vice President Joe Biden and Democratic nominee argues the nation won't be in such bad shape if Trump hadn't fumbled in handling the pandemic. Yeah, yeah. Well, we'll get into that in a minute and some fumbles here. And not Trump's. Perhaps the best case Trump can make for improvement since he took office is higher wages and a boost in confidence. The average worker's pay finally grew more than 3% a year. What? I thought that just told me that the people didn't get a pay raise. By the way, my wife just got a pay raise. So, just saying. And I know what percentage it was, and how much money that meant. And yeah, at her salary, the numbers that Trump was saying was probably about right. Now, this is now, not under Trump, but I'm just saying they're saying a 3% gain every year. That's 9% over 3 years. 9%. Do the math for yourself right now. Do it. Pull out a calculator, right? I'll get my phone here. Yeah. That way we'll be accurate. I'll get my calculator on my phone, and we'll do let's say a lower middle class job that pays 40 grand a year. It's $3,600. So again, and this is a debunking article. So, and then there was the last one we just read. And there was a drop in the number of Americans on food stamps. Consumer and business confidence also jumped after Trump's election and remained high after the GOP cut taxes took effect in 2018. As recently as February, many Americans rate this as the best economy since the 1990s. Now, why would Americans believe it was the best economy in the 1990s when I have this whole report right here telling me that nope, it really wasn't? And I have this article from Axios saying that you're better off now than you were under Trump. Those things just don't seem to line up. Like why would Americans be under that false belief when almost every major news outlet and media corporation espoused hatred and nonsense and lied about Donald Trump? And maybe there's someone out there to be like, but Bill, he had white supremacists supporting him. So what? I don't care. Like, that's a stupid reason not to like somebody. Now, if Trump specifically was all about the white supremacists, maybe that's a little bit of a problem. But honestly, honestly, I don't think that that is the norm of Americans. I don't see it. On the occasion I run into people that have some, more extreme racialistic beliefs, uh, it almost always is on the left. Now, I you could say there are people on the right that have it, but then we start getting into the details of who they are, and then if you talk about someone in, like, I always bring up, like, Richard Spencer, he's alt-right. No, he's left. He's just a socialist. He's just a collectivist. So, anyways, um, and mind you, we can always talk about the endorsements of Senator Byrd, my former congressman or former senator, I mean, of West Virginia. So, the people that spoke so highly well of the Grand Wizard or Exalted Cyclops or whatever he was in the KKK. The pandemic recession triggered more than 22 million job losses, modern day bread lines, and millions of pay cuts, yada, yada, yada. I don't care about that. So, job losses and gains. The United States experienced some of its best years of job gains in 2014 and 15 in Obama's second term when the economy added more than 25, or sorry, 225,000 jobs a month. What? I don't think that happened. I don't remember. I have to look at the data on that, but a month? I really remember those years getting a little bit better, but everything was still really sluggish until after the first term of Trump. And of course, the left always does the old tactic. Well, it takes 4 years for his policies to be implemented. So right now, whatever the economy uh, is going to be Trump's fault soon, right? That's what this is going to turn into. Average monthly job gains under Trump peaked at 190,000 in 2018. That doesn't mean anything. We have one of the lowest rates of unemployments. Job gains is a weird measure because jobs can be created and added in multiple different ways. Unemployment, depending on how they're looking at that, right? Depending on if they're looking at people having part-time, full-time jobs, whatever, can be a weird thing. But when most of your citizenry is working, it's a pretty good chance. There's a pretty good chance that your economy is doing well. It's usually not the abundance of jobs, but or the abundance of employees, but the lack thereof that there's a bad thing going on, and we've noticed that, right? People have been saying, what are people doing? Where are they getting money? No one's working. People are offering all kinds of money all over the place, right? Why are no one working? Well, no one's working because why would they? They don't want to do all these restrictions. They don't know if their job's stable. They were getting paid to not work for a while. So there are lots of reasons. I had my own reasons not to work. Looked at, wanted to get work, but having a newborn, didn't want to put her in childcare. Wife's going to work, so you make sacrifices. Average monthly job gains under Trump peaked at 193,000 compared to Obama's 225,000 a month. Economists call this very robust, especially given the recovery was nearly a decade old by then. It couldn't be a decade old because the crash happened in 2018. So what are you talking about? But the devastation from the pandemic wiped out the decade's worth of jobs gains in the spring. No, no, they were predicting bounce backs a big, huge bounce back as long as people started opening up. But the numerous states decided to remain locked down. Corporations restrict their employees' ability and right to work. Um, you know, again, I see this as human action. Because if this was a pandemic of, like, people being, like, deathly ill, don't get me wrong, I know people have died, right? But I mean, like, they're getting it and they're deathly ill and they're falling out by the dozens. I would have more than 2 relatives that have passed away from this. I finally my best friend finally lost his grandmother the other week. She got COVID. She was older, right? Um, that's sad. That sucks, but this isn't destroying the workforce, folks. We have to realize that. Economic growth. Trump says he had the greatest economy in history during the GOP convention. A fact claim checker says quickly marked as false. And again, they got numbers and charts, U.S. unemployment, yada, yada, yada. We can go through the historic black unemployment. Trump has started making the claim that the administration has done more for African Americans than any other president since Abraham Lincoln, which the Washington Post factor gave 4 Pinocchios. One, it's an opinion. So how you can fact check an opinion, again, these are just opinion checkers giving their own opinions. It's such a screwy world we live in of relativism. It drives me nuts. There has to be truth, folks. If there is no truth, then there is no measure in which we can be guided by, in which we can direct our lives by, and everything is just chaos then. And well, hell, you might as well, be a warlord. You might as well just justify tyranny and enslaving people and assume that anyone who's not willing to is a weak person. When Trump took office, black unemployment was 7.5%. Many of the job gains under Trump did go to black and Hispanic workers, especially women. As the labor market tightened, many employers gave a chance to workers they were not looking at before, such as those without college degrees. The pandemic, however, has hit black and Hispanic workers the hardest. So again, the pandemic, the pandemic, the pandemic. No, Trump wasn't that great because of the pandemic. So, and what this apparently was showing that at the beginning of Obama, highest black unemployment, and then it went way down. But then here it's under Trump. It's way up. And the way down is not even below the level where it was under Obama. And it gets into the middle class income thing we were talking about. But I don't know, guys. I'm gonna keep going because I wanted to talk about other stuff, and I'm an hour into the show. So, but I don't have any limitations. I can stream for 3 hours, 4 hours today if I want. I don't have to worry about a baby. I don't have to worry about a wife being overwhelmed. My daughter might need a ride home from work, but yeah. But that's a while from now. So I appreciate y'all being here with me. Anyways, meanwhile at the White House. The tree before my spirit falls again. Fill up the stocking. I might be wrong. Thanksgiving Day All right, guys, that's from John Talks on YouTube. I just burned it, ripped it to be on here. In any case, yeah, they're goofing around doing their things. Did you guys see this? Now I'm not gonna play the whole video. I think this is on the Hill. Somewhere gonna or from the Hill. But at the end here, I'll play. And the reason why I won't play the whole video is because the audio's really bad. But let me mute myself real quick and hit play.
This isn't to you, Jared. This is to the kids.
That's right. I hope you have a wonderful Christmas.
Well, yeah, I hope you guys have a wonderful Christmas as well. Merry Christmas, and let's go, Brandon.
Let's go, Brandon. I agree. Hey, by the way, where are you in Oregon?
Let's go, Brandon. I agree. Yeah, buddy.
You can hear the chants from the crowd. Let's go, Brandon. Brandon,
Let's go, Brandon. I agree.
All right, guys, ready? In 3, 2, 1.
Drivers, start your engines. Let's go, Brandon.
Let's go, Brandon. I agree. Hey, by the way, where are you?
Let's go, Brandon.
Let's go, Brandon.
You know, let's go, Brandon. We'll see you.
Let's go, Brandon. I agree.
Let's go, Brandon.
Let's go, Brandon. Hey, by the way, where are you in Oregon?
You go come get me. Oh, wow. I don't know why this is on a loop. This is the video I made Monday. That's the baby. In any case, so Joe Biden got tricked into saying, let's go, Brandon, because the guy has no clue what is going on, obviously, most of the time. And now the left has to dox and troll the troll. You can't just let it go. You can have leftists, Democrats, liberals, whatever you want to call them, going around saying F Donald Trump for 4 years and calling everyone a racist, bigot, fascist, homophobic, xenophobe, nonsensical garbage. And the let's go Brandon thing, I know a lot of people on the right find cringy, but I think it's hilarious because a lot of people on the right don't want to use curse words, even in private, mind you. I try not to cuss on the show, but I'm not going to sit here and say like I never use foul language. But yeah, they just couldn't let it be, right? So the lefties come in and they go after this guy. It says Jarek Schmeck, the Oregon father of 4 who trolled Joe Biden into saying, let's go, Brandon. I agree. In a Christmas Eve NORAD phone call for children and families, spoke with the Oregonian, Oregon Live, on Saturday, telling the paper, I understand that there's a vulgar meaning to let's go, Brandon, but I'm not that simple-minded. No matter how I feel about him, I was merely just an innocent jest to also express my God-given right to express my frustrations in a joking manner. So, Schmeck said he is not a Trumper, but he describes himself as a free-thinking American who and a follower of Jesus Christ. Schmeck called his remark a joke and a reflection of his frustration. Yeah, I just read that. And now I'm being attacked for utilizing my freedom of speech. It's because you don't have freedom without consequences. Them consequences. So he wore a skirt that was too short and his boobs were showing, right? He asked for it, didn't he? Yeah. And actually, I think there is some truth in that argument. I'm not saying that ladies ask to be sexually assaulted. I'm saying that there are things that people assume when you act or present a certain way. And so the left assumes that they can hurt you when you say bad things, and the right generally doesn't. I understand there is a vulgar meaning to let's go, Brandon, but I'm not that simple-minded, yada, yada, yada. I just read that. He went on to say that he stood 100% behind what he said. And then there were some tweets here, I thought, but maybe they're not pictured because of dark mode or... Yeah, I mean, these are tweets, but I don't know why it's not showing me the actual... Yeah. We'll just go to Twitter. This is how Blue and On is celebrating Christmas. Jared from Oregon, who prank called Joe Biden, appears to be Jared Schmeck. He disabled a lot of his social media, but not enough. his YouTube account is still up. And at the top of his video, apparently he likes to do box reveals of Pokemon cards with his kids when he isn't being a douche to the president. This is ridiculous. The Defiant L's, of course, has a nice little comeback here, I suppose. I totally wish for the moments like this when you can look at Trumpers, Mel Gibson, General Flynn, and politicians who are corrupt and evil. Just look at them in the eyes and say, F you. GOP 2016 here in CLE. Rick Santorum stepped out of a limo, looked at us, and we brushed past. F off. Yeah. So this guy can make remarks about the president, and he's a douche, but you know. But when this guy does it, and the politics are in reverse, the politics he likes, then he apparently he's not a douche. This is how it works. You all know this, of course. Not reinventing the wheel here. But that wasn't all that was going on in the Biden administration in the past few days. So, you know, which version of this do I want to play first? Let's play the longer one, and I'll play Memology 101 for you all.
If you go to the pharmacy, we hear this over and over again, empty shelves, no test kits. Is that a failure? Is that a failure? Failure?
No, I don't think it's a failure. I think it's, you could argue that we should have known a year ago, 6 months ago, 2 months ago, a month ago. I've ordered 500 million of the pills, 500 million pills. 500 million test kits that are going to be available to be sent to every home in America if anybody wants them. But the answer is, yeah, I wish I had thought about ordering 500 million pills 2 months ago. Pills. Thought about ordering 500 million pills. Pills are good. Pills are good. No, I don't think it's a failure.
You go come get me.
I don't know why this is on autoplay. I don't keep my stuff on autoplay. Whatever. So one of the things that was going on there was he was talking about pills. Now, why is he talking about pills that he ordered? Well, if I had to make a wager, certain companies will release a new pill that's supposed to be a treatment for the coof. And I would wager that's what he's talking about. And he's confused with rapid tests. Now, the journalist is correct. In fact, I know that he's correct because my family, not being jabbed, was asked to take a rapid test for Christmas. Sure. My daughter's the one who's been out in the public the most, working. And so we couldn't find any tests, and she was the only one that ended up taking one. But I don't know why all the vaccinated people are worried about us getting the rapid test unless they have misinformation, like that they can't carry the coof or that breakthrough cases are rare, which, you know, one particular individual in my family was mentioning the other day. You know, whatever. They're not correct, but we can just go to the Israeli data, the probably best kept data, most available that's out there, and the highest compliance rate. In any case, let's watch this real quick. It's fun.
If you go to the pharmacy, we hear this over and over again, empty shelves, no test kits. Is that a failure?
No, I don't think it's a failure. I think it's, you could argue that we should have known a year ago, 6 months ago, 2 months ago, a month ago. I've ordered 500 million of the pills, 500 million pills. 500 million test kits that are going to be available to be sent to every home in America if anybody wants them. But the answer is, yeah, I wish I had thought about ordering 500 million pills 2 months ago before COVID hit here.
That's how people like you work. Your ego is so out of whack that it will do whatever it can to protect itself. And people with a messed up ego can do these mental gymnastics to convince themselves they're awesome when really they're just douchebags.
Freaking Kyle every time. So, yeah, Dahari, the whole Congress is investing in Pfizer as we speak and the new pills. No doubt. No doubt. And let me tell you the secret here to this thing. I definitely believe that the coof is real. Now, the numbers and things we're counting and not counting, that's a whole nother issue. But the reality is that the directives by many of these people is to make no intervention while you are ill until you need hospitalization. That, my friends, is almost certain death. That is not what you ever do with any medical intervention. You always intervene as quickly as possible. This is a standard, basic standard of care. People know that the quicker you get the thing, the sooner you get treatment, the better off you'll be, because it's not so far blown. It's not taxing your system so far or so much. And you have basically not gone into advanced life-threatening stages of illness. And I saw people like Tim Pool, Joe Rogan, numerous others beat the coof in 2 or 3 days. And I happen to know one of Tim's staffers. He told me about this, like what happened there, and he's a friend of mine, one of his staff, and he basically his girlfriend got very, very ill from this. Now, he was jabbed himself, and I don't know if he's going to get jabbed again. I don't think he is, but he was, and he said it was very mild for him. But he thought he had it before too. So it's hard to say. But again, this isn't about actually treating this or taking care of this, because we would be going about this just tremendously different, just way different. And I don't know, I haven't seen anything in a while, but Dr. Drew Pinsky from Love Line fame and whatever else back in the day, he was horrified by all this in the beginning. Dr. Oz right now, I'm not a huge fan of Dr. Oz per se, but he's running for Congress in Pennsylvania right now because of this stuff. There are medical professionals like Rand Paul who have suggested the way we've been going about this is wrong. And what do? They other them, they silence them, they completely get rid of them. Because if you are opposed to them, you are some sort of evil. See, the flu is really, especially if you're already old and pre-existing medical conditions, really lethal. Yeah. Yeah, it's not the fake nurse singers. Yeah. Well, I had to do it. Old York, I knew him well. Horatio. Hey, let me know when you're moving, man. Let me know so I can make time for you and we can plan. Because now that I'm working, for somebody else, my schedule is going to be a little tighter. But I know you'll need help, so let me know, bud. The Sacademia, okay, has been a huge smokescreen. The confidence level for investors was much higher with Trump as president. Yeah, because they knew he would have more laissez-faire style policies. No, again, they didn't go back, to way unregulated markets or anything crazy. They barely did anything. Most of what he did that was good was tax cuts, some of the tariff stuff, which I'm not a huge fan of tariffs. overall, but they when you're in trade wars, you have to use them. But I will say this, that the United States, for the first 150 years of its existence, something like that, had no income tax and was completely funded by tariffs. We finally got to see the baby. Very cute. Oh, I have my baby on here on occasion. Suppose my wife brings her in the middle of the stream. So, anyways, so the GOP, this is the other article I was talking about, I get to from Axios, has plans to basically take on Biden once they win this midterm. Now, there's some people that are speculating on this, that it's going to be a huge red wave, if you will. I don't know about that, but I think that a lot of people will be sick of all the draconianism eventually. What's propping up Democrats right now are folks that have wealth. And many of these folks that have wealth don't understand that they're wealthy. Because frankly, folks, if you're making over $100,000 a year, you are pretty wealthy. That's as a singular individual, mind you. With a family, a little more difficult. But if you're up in a $200,000, $250,000, $300,000 a year, you're wealthy. You may not be Hollywood rich. You may not be, financial investor rich. You may not be, Bill Gates rich, mind you, but you have wealth. You have the ability to choose the amount of luxury that you live in. They'll maybe not have the most luxurious things, but you can choose if you have a big house or a small house. And like a person like me who has to essentially live in a small house, but you have more choice and the food that you can buy and the clothes that you can wear, because money gives you a certain amount of power. And you also have more choice and like healthcare options and all those other things as well. Not just because we have a barely market healthcare system, where you can go shop around at, but because you can go to other nations if you wish and pay out of pocket. You can do a lot of things when you have extra money. And that insulates these folks from the realities that your blue collar worker sees. And this is where the Trump train has shaken everything up, because the Democrats abandoned the working class a long time ago. Mind you, I've known many a staunch Democrat. I used to work with them. Most of the folks I worked with would have been Republicans. But there were several that were Democrats, and they were more conservative Democrats, but they believed the tremendous lie that somehow Democrats help poor people. Now, how that ever is explained or shown is beyond me, because the poverty level has been stagnant, utterly stagnant, and if anything, probably gone up since LBJ's Great Society. So why in the world would we believe that Democrats are there to help poor people? What Democrats do, folks, is they enslave poor people. They get them hooked on a system of dependence and government. They want to take fathers out of homes, which they did, and they want to recreate some sort of Plato's Republic. Now, what we've seen as a society is that this has led to massive crime, mass incarceration, of course, because of the crime, childless homes, people who have no identities, inability to get a good education generally. And this isn't because they just live in the ghetto or any of that kind of stuff. It's parents can't shop around again for education, right? You can't just pick up and leave necessarily. Now you could, but that's a huge gamble, man. Huge sacrifice. If you're not a parent, you might not understand. And in any case, these factors and these facts of life are very different for folks who have wealth and folks who don't. And I've always been, middle class, lower middle class, and I'm okay with that. I'm fine with that. I don't need a lot. I don't really seek money. It's not important to me. But I do like nice things, like I said. But more importantly, I like economic mobility, and that is what the lower classes are seeing. And that's where the blacks and the Hispanics are going to start to come over to the Republicans, right? Because of this Trump train, if the Republicans continue to embrace it. And they're really not. It's the Republicans who are not inside the party. That is the establishment, the rhinos, the neocons, because they're all globalists. But when you talk to folks, I know folks who do like CPAC and all that stuff. When they go to CPAC, the atmosphere is all about Trump. It's all about this new working class Republican. And Republicans weren't necessarily the rich folks before, right? But that was the Democrats' thing. We'll give you socialism, just enough socialism, you poor people. Look at how morally righteous we are. And frankly, I think it's actually terrible. Give someone who's bad with money $1 million is actually not a good thing. It doesn't help them at all. People have different responsibilities, or are responsible with different things, I should say. And a lot of people are not responsible with money, right? And it becomes a power that they can't wield well. So they get lost in the excesses and the ecstasy that they bring. So they drink themselves to death, or they do drugs or sex, right? I'm not just talking about prostitution, but girls like dates and nice things and money. And if you have money, it's easier to get girls. That's just a fact of life, folks. So when you think about it like that, right? You can see that it's not good to give, let's say, a toddler a submachine gun with no safety. Now, maybe he can't pull the trigger because he's not strong enough, but I don't want to take the risk, right? Inequality is a good thing for all of us because it creates humility. It creates people who are strong in some areas and people who are weak in some areas. And it creates a situation where we have to have a synergy of helping each other out. But it doesn't mean that we have to do that by putting guns in people's faces and threatening to put them in jail. And that's kind of, again, the whole socialistic paradigm in the end. That's what it comes down to. You can't enforce it otherwise. So House Republicans have begun mapping aggressive probes on the Biden administration if they win back the majority, including inquiries into the origins of COVID, a leak of IRS data about billionaires, and accusations the NSA spied on Tucker Carlson. Why it matters. The plans, obtained exclusively by Axios, shows House Representative Leader Kevin McCarthy would make muscular use of majority powers for the last 2 years of President Biden's term if, as expected, the GOP wins the majority in next year's midterms. McCarthy's plans to send a spate of preservation notes to the departments throughout Biden's cabinet, ordering them to retain documents that might be needed for future GOP oversight hearings. So what is this? This is supposedly the GOP gearing up to do what the Democrats do and basically gum up this guy's presidency. They did it to Trump. Turnabout is fair play. And I don't like these dirty politics, folks. I don't like it at all. But hey, if you're going to do it, if you're going to open that door, don't be surprised when someone turns around and does it back to you. It's like someone walks up and smacks you in the face and you punch them as hard as you can back and knock them on the butt. And you go, "Oh, I can't believe you would hit me." Yeah, you're an idiot. Well, maybe that person shows restraint or forgiveness and doesn't hit you. But to not expect to be hit back and potentially harder, you're an idiot. And this is the other problem with power, folks, unrestrained, unregulated power, because as these guys do this and they go back and forth like this, if this happens. The Republicans generally have no spine, so I think it's dubious that it will. You're right. But if it does happen, what it creates is a precedent and a standard of play, and it just means that we spin our wheels even more. Between the lines, Republicans want to deflect attention from the 1/6 Commission, a real-time probe of real violence, death, and looting in the Capitol. Wait, no. The person that died was shot unjustifiably by a guy who left his firearm in a bathroom a few years prior, who was still a lieutenant, I believe. And that guy was investigated. And the DC police, or DC Capitol Police, whatever, when they investigated, said he did nothing wrong. That was it. I think maybe I had heard, I haven't checked on this lately, but one of the people that supposedly got trampled was beat by the police, or no, someone was hit. I think that's what it was. They were hit by a cop and they fell several feet off, off in some sort of elevation, wherever they were at. And they died from traumatic brain injury, something like that. So what are they talking about? It was definitely a riot. Most of the people that went in there, though, weren't rioting and looting. And what about all the leftist riots and loots and whatever? Why are we not investigating that? Why are we not investigating the Summer of Love? Because the Summer of Love, we want to talk about economy, right? We want to talk about jobs, people earning money. You think that helped any of those people? Was it the pandemic that burnt down those cities, or was it people looking for an excuse to destroy and break things because they're evil, because they're hungry for power, because they can, because it's an outlet, because the system is wrong, it's evil, man. I mean, the system is wrong and evil, but we don't follow the system we're supposed to be. And the system we have in place is a corruption of what it should be. It says, as a prelude, the House Republicans in August sent Biden a request to preserve all records related to the administration's withdrawal from Afghanistan. Investigations planned by the House Republicans in parallel with their legislative agenda show they hope to use congressional power to stoke cultural wars for 2024. IRS leaks of a vast cache of IRS information about billionaires to ProPublica. National Security Agency Tucker Carlson last summer accused the spy agency of targeting his show communications. And the NSA said he was never an intelligence target. Well, why would they tell the truth? The NSA also said that they weren't spying on Americans. Attorney General Merrick Garland vows to mobilize the FBI against threats of violence against school board members. And after the National School Board Association uses the phrase domestic terrorism. Well, the interesting thing is I don't know if there were really any real threats made for them to be labeled this. But the fact of the matter is the school boards are the terrorists. And stay with me here because it's pretty simple. They're teaching your kids political things for political gain, and they're threatening violence against you if you don't go along with it. That, my friends, is terrorism. And you might say, well, Bill, but it's in the hands of the state. Yes, I get it. I get it. That the state actually does tyrannize its people. I mean, duh. This school board is literally going after parents. They went after it wasn't the school board, actually, it was the district attorney going after the father of the girl that was raped in the bathroom by a boy that took advantage of the dress code given that we have a identity crisis in our culture. Mind you, I was in high school. People had sex in high school. And I mean in the school. And, that happened. So maybe he didn't need to be in the girl's bathroom to rape her or locker room, but that's where it happened regardless. And he did that purposefully. And there was a second incident at the school they moved him to when they tried to bury it. Who's the terrorist? At the border, record levels of illegal immigration. Yeah, at least 1 million crossed. Have crossed this year. At least. It's probably 5 million. And who knows how much of that are slaves, sex slaves, human cattle to pay off the cartels to then get other family members in, or all these stuff that they do, run drugs for them, drug mules, all that stuff, or just to be distractions so they can do things elsewhere. Origins of the virus, the CDC communications about school closure and mask mandates. And let's see, Afghanistan's decision behind the withdrawal, and Jedi, a disputed cloud computing contract. Do I know about this? Do I not remember? Is it my tiredness not citing? Pentagon emails take aim at... Oh, I got to continue with PayPal? No, thank you. Well, we'll look at that another time. All right, guys, I'm going to move into Festivus, but I'm going to cover some chat real quick. Make sure it's there. Architect Fate's over on the Entropy there. Should hear back by the 30th. Cool, man. Like I said, get a hold of me. Maybe set so on the YouTube channel. I'll look at that here in a minute. Get back to where I was. Argue and urges. Yeah, but I'm dyslexic, so my brain sees things weird sometimes when I'm reading. It just, like, it's worse when I'm tired, and it's always worse when I try to read and read aloud. And when I'm reading to myself, it's generally less of an issue. But when I come across a new word, it's always a bad thing. So it's just how I work, man. But it is helpful to speed read. But you can't speed read when you're, sometimes I got to scan a page a couple times, but make sure I got it right. But you can't speed read when you're trying to read aloud to everybody. Inflation is more than the rise, so it's an artificial number. It says to hurry, the people that write them articles have been into the edibles again. Yeah. I think student loan relief is a feather in Biden's cap to pull out when things really do hit the fan. Yeah. Perhaps. I don't think they care. I think it's something they can dangle out there. It's the carrot for the horse. And, we're going to do it. We just couldn't do it right now. We had other things. I had the pandemic to worry about. The absurdity of that. I mean, I'm sure there's stuff to do for the pandemic, mind you, federally. But one, most of it's probably unconstitutional. And two, what isn't unconstitutional, you do not do personally. You delegate. So don't give me that crap. You hear a report about it, and that's it. The confidence level for inventors was much higher for investors when Trump. Yeah, okay, I read that earlier. Got too far behind. Let's see. The rich Hollywood elites, along with the leftist millionaires, talking heads. Did you see how fast the shutdown? People buying various pharma products from Canada shows you how inflated the pricing points are in the U.S. Well, yeah, but that's because we have all kinds of price controls in the U.S. Like when people tell me this is a capitalist nation, free markets, I'm like, you got to be insane. Like you are the most illiterate, economic illiterate that is. That can I talk to? I can't form a coherent thought. Turn it into Joe Biden here. Come on, man. Turn it on a shower pressure. You are an economic illiterate if you are believing that. If you know, it just doesn't work that way. The bottom line. The U.S. government regulates tightly a variety of businesses from agriculture to big pharma, and they're kind of tied in together a little bit, right? And that's the thing. And some of these companies, like Monsanto, are so in bed with the government. I know Monsanto's farming, but they use a lot of the chemical engineering and other stuff that they do, and genetic engineering, biomedical engineering. These are the same people working together, right? They work sometimes in the agricultural field, sometimes they work for big pharma, and they commingle because that's how they get their GMO crops. All this learning to gene splice and all that. Back in the day, we used to cross pollinate and stuff. But today, we just go and we get some like fish DNA and some fly DNA, and I don't know, we get a virus and somehow get it pumped in there, and then it turns this thing into some sort of new resistant vegetable to Roundup or whatever, right? And it's something that's unnatural and shouldn't have been made and whatever. Well, Big Pharma's kind of doing the same thing. And the thing is that I wouldn't care about Big Pharma if Big Pharma didn't have the federal government up its butt. I wouldn't care about it if the FDA would approve drugs that other nations approve on the regular. I wouldn't care about it. Well, frankly, we shouldn't have an FDA because the government has no constitutional right to tell me what I can put in my body. And someone might say, "But Bill, that's insane. Could you imagine all the people taking the drugs and doing whatever?" Yeah, I can. You go back to like the 1930s. You might have a grandparent that's alive today still. That lived then when prescriptions weren't really that tightly regulated. And I don't know. It's this argument of dangerous freedom. People might make mistakes. I watched It's a Wonderful Life last night. Mr. Gower almost poisoned a girl, finds out his son died, gets really drunk. George Bailey saves this little girl's life and Mr. Gower's career, his job, whatever. And it's just such a powerful movie. It's the first parts of that movie, George is saving people's lives as a young man, saves his little brother's life, who then goes on later on to save a bunch of lives as a pilot during World War II. And Mr. Gower would have poisoned a little girl and then spent his life in jail because he was grieving. Now, was that responsible of him? No. But someone else was there. Someone else was his brother's keeper. And that's what makes that story so powerful, that movie so wonderful. And it shows you the impact, in a fiction that we could all have. And the modern world doesn't want that. They want it all to be through the technocracy. They don't want you making decisions. Right now, they're telling you to trust the science when the science is wrong about every other day. Because it's not the science, it's Anthony Fauci. According to him, he is the science, though, right? Questioning me, frankly, is like questioning the science. Well, sorry, Fauci. You're a human being. You are flawed, and that is absolutely absurd. And no legitimate authoritative scientist would ever make such an erroneous statement. So, no. Get out of here. globalist Republican skunks sneaking around Washington. The fire extinguisher story is a proven lie. Yeah. There's no evidence. They keep repeating the lies because they know that people will believe them. And it's maddening, man. It's maddening. I mean, I'm sure you experience it too. When you talk to people and they're absolutely clueless and everything that they believe is a lie. Maybe things I believe aren't true, but I'm pretty sure that a lot of this stuff I'm saying is true. I mean, I'll tell you when I'm speculating. At 4-H meeting with a youngest, gotta go. Okay, Shelley. Well, come back and watch later. The Haitians that were returned after attempting to sue the U.S. for violating their rights. Hari, you're bringing up random stuff. My mind's not connecting it today, bud. I do know the what? Wasn't the Haitian president assassinated? Wasn't that Haiti? Or was that one of those other islands over there? My brain dead brain cannot recall at the moment. If you want to know why the medical prices are so bad in the U.S., just get into the medical insurance billing. Most of the prices is purely dictated by government regulations. Yeah, I know. Go work for a medical office, especially in a conservative area, or go work in a hospital, and you'll hear what the receptionists, the intakers, and the processors have to say about these things, and you'll see the ways. You'll see the people, the 20-something-year-old people who are on welfare, who have Obamacare, right, and they come in to the hospital over and over and over again for a sniffle, for the stupidest things. They go to the ER, and that costs money. It costs a lot more money because of the nature of the ER. And hospitals, mind you, are always running at a almost max capacity or at max capacity because they are trying to make a profit. They're businesses, but their business is highly regulated. They wouldn't have these issues if the governments didn't regulate them. And it's absolutely insane. And insurance companies get tied down by state governments because certain states won't allow certain insurances, certain types. You have to do certain types of programs or whatever. There's all these regulations all over the place, and it's just bureaucracy. Big Farm lines the pockets of the politicians, much like Hollywood and other industries. All right. Recreational use of opium and cocaine were commonplace before federal drug scheduling, and we had a lot less social problems. Yeah. But you know why? Because there was expectations. We had an identity. We had an identity. For the most part, people identified with their state. People sort of do today. It depends on what state you're from, but they identified far more with their state than being an American as a whole. And then people would generally identify with their counties and their towns more than their state even. But now it's all top down. The majority of doctors' visits involves prescription drugs. Yes. Tahari said, you were talking about illegal crossing. The Haitian thing was just in the news. Okay, I must have missed it. I've had family in town, man. So, my mother-in-law came into town. It's been very hectic. So, my newsing's been a little under par this week. That, and I've been doing a lot of delving into church history because it's something I'm always doing, but doing a lot more of it recently because I have questions about things and I want it clarified in my mind before I talk to certain people, probably in the Orthodox Church. But either way, I'm not claiming I'm going to be an Orthodox, but I'm pretty sure I can promise you this: if I did convert, or if I did, join the church, if you would, I'm not really converting to anything. I already have Orthodox beliefs. I just don't believe certain things that they do. you know. Um, but if that happens, I'm not going to turn into a based monarchist. So no one worry about that. That is not. I mean, technically, I am a based monarchist because I'm basically an ANCAP who thinks that Christ is my king, that no one else can be my king. So. But really, I'm a classical liberal. I believe in law and order, and it's minarchy that I usually espouse for, and community. And if Christ is all our king, and we know what he expects of us, then we don't need anyone else leading us. It's a pretty simple argument. I don't think I need to get any more detailed than that. Oh, remember all the Haitians on the bridge? Oh, that's right. That's right. Okay, I know what you're talking about now. Yeah, see. And this is why I'm not going into work tonight, because I'm not going in there tonight to go back and be like, I'm not on the schedule. It's just training that he was telling me I could come in and do whenever I needed. I'm not going to go in, figure out how to run the system, and then forget everything like the next day. So remember all the Haitians under the bridge. Yeah, the doctor must be in your network to be covered by your insurance. Yes, that's another one. Yeah, third party. You take insurance out of it, guess what happens? The cost of medical care drops by 2/3 to 3/4. That's what happens. Immediately, healthcare prices would go down. As soon as the government gets involved with it, what do? They go up. It happened under Obamacare. We knew that. It was a necessity. Bill, if you want to follow the scripture, infant baptism is heresy. Yeah, I believe. I don't believe in infant baptism. I think baptism's a matter of choice. So that's what this is the stuff I'm talking about in the Orthodoxy, but I don't think you have to have your children baptized that way. My problem is I have no spiritual leader. And I know that my father, my biological father, my earthly father, would like to be that and has been that to some degree, but I split apart from his beliefs some years ago, and we talk and have mutually respectful conversations about things, but he comes to me. He's in school now. I mean, my father's highly intelligent, very well read, but he's just now finally in his 60s. He's about to turn 68. He's finally, getting a college degree and trying to get a doctorate in theology. So he'll come and talk to me about things, and I'm like, yeah, I told you that like 5 years ago. Or I don't actually, I'm not usually like, I told you so, but he'll come to me about things and I'll be, oh, and I was like, oh yeah, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, Dad, we've had these conversations before. You didn't take my word for it then. Nor do I expect anyone to, but go look into my word at least. I have a local doc who's willing to forego the ins and just take cash per service. That's awesome. I would like to get back to having doctors that are making house calls and are private practices making house calls for the community without insurance. And the problem is, right, is that it's the overhead cost for a lot of things, and the money, and then the potential for malpractice suits. So people tend to go along with the system. Insurance to healthcare is like government to higher education. Yes. Yeah. Well, what show me what government's made better. Like, if you can legitimately show me that. Like, they're great at war. They're really good at war. Apparently, though, a bunch of non-governments are better at war because guerrilla warfare is highly effective. The Afghanis outlasted us. Of course, China's just going to move in most likely. Or Russia, maybe again, but I doubt it. But the American Revolution was fought largely by professional armies. But there was a lot of militias and guerrilla tactics. So, and our government was a loose, it was a continental government, whatever they were calling at the time. It was just a loose, hey, we got to win this war. didn't really have rules or laws, right? They were like trying to piecemeal together, and then they came up with the Articles of Confederation and decided that didn't work out because Shays' Rebellion. And so, old Hamilton got in his mind about that Constitution and started writing the Federalist Papers and all that, sold it to everybody, and here we are today with an utterly corrupt system because they wanted to strengthen the federal government just a tiny bit. Just a tiny bit. It's pretty interesting. The Articles of Confederation, the reason why Shays' Rebellion was an issue is because of localism. They couldn't get locals to arrest Shay for rioting. It'd be like trying to get other people in Seattle to stop the Chaz. And when he got convicted, he was acquitted because of jury nullification. He didn't get convicted, but when he got put on trial. So this was a thing, and so they decided that the U.S. military needed to have, the U.S. federal government needed to have military power to go after things like this, since locals wouldn't want to do it, and that immediately, I think unwittingly, but immediately gave the federal government a supremacy. It was unfortunate. Building to start our own church, all answers are in the scriptures. I don't think all answers are in the scriptures because you need historical context, and tradition is important. I think what's important though is that, or what I try and do is see where you can see how the tradition was influenced by modern politics. That is a fact. It 100% happens. The Great Schism between the Orthodox and the Catholic Church was a political matter. These things are often political matters. And if you go back and you read the fathers and you read some of the later things, like after the Council of Nicaea, because I tend to stay with the ante-Nicene fathers, but I do read other stuff that's later. When you go back and you look at what was going on, you'll see, say, so I was talking about the Virgin Mary thing. So with my dad the other day, I was looking into it. I was looking at an apologist for it. Now, I only believe Mary was a virgin who birthed Christ. I believe Christ was a real person. I think he's alive today in a body. I believe my religious beliefs. I believe them because I don't know how, scriptures, things that were written down thousands of years ahead of time, came true. But they did. And they still seem to come true. So, and that's a big part of why I believe what I believe. I also believe what I believe because of the evidence of the day, the manner in which the scriptures were written, how the early church conducted itself, etc., etc. I agree with you that scriptures have ultimate supremacy. Actually, Christ has ultimate supremacy, and the Holy Spirit and all that stuff. But then you get to argue about who has the Holy Spirit, and does this guy have it? Is it the right spirit? Yada yada yada. Remember, the Bible says to test every spirit. But in that light, then the scriptures have complete supremacy. But the scriptures are Christ, because Christ is the Word. So these things get compounded. But there was not long after the Council of Nicaea, there was a debate about the Theotokos, the Mother of God. That's the Greek for Mother of God. Now, by the 12th century and later on, Mary worship full on, cults were formed. But this is in the 4th or 5th century, yeah, maybe 6. This particular debate was about Christ's divinity. And if Christ was born of the Christos Tokos, the mother of Christ, which one particular, I don't know if he's a bishop, but one particular member of the church was arguing for, of the clergy, that is. And they were saying it's more accurate. And people were saying, well, no, because if he's just the Christos Tokos, she's the mother of Christ, then it doesn't fully realize his divinity. So these are like silly arguments to me. Because their argument is that he was fully man and fully divine, right? So we're going to call her the mother of God. And eventually she becomes the mother of heaven through that. Now, those things are absurd to my mind. There's the Dormition of Mary, which both the Catholics and the Orthodox believe that Mary passed and was taken like Elijah and Enoch. And some of the fathers write that, well, this is because who would not, if you were Jesus, want not to have your mother with you in heaven? But the early church didn't teach of heaven. That was a heresy. Dying and going to heaven was a heresy, folks. You read about your Gnostics from the early church. You went to the intermediary place. You went to the holding place until Christ returns. You went to soul sleep. Well, some churches like the Seventh-day Adventists, they teach that. But I think they teach other things that aren't correct. But in any case, this is where these things came from. We can go back to Clement of Alexandria, 3rd century. I believe it's 3rd century. It's right before Origen. So he was the predecessor to Origen, more or less, in the Alexandrian school. And he makes a statement about Mary being in a perpetual state. He says, many believe that Mary was in a perpetual state until today, although she was not. And then the next line after that, or it says something else, it's clarifying a little bit more. And then it says, something about her virginity. And it's clearly reading that her perpetual state, which came first in the sentence structure, is about her virginity. Now, some odd years later, I think it was Augustine or somebody else said that when he was referring to that, he was talking about that some people believe that she had perpetual birth pains, but then the church teaches that she had no pains in birth. So there's stuff there, right? That was a belief. It's a tradition. But then he goes on to talk about how the scriptures were basically, they remain virgin. It seems very clear to me by the context. He says, we still have a virgin scripture. It's not tainted. And so that's one that I'm going to have. I don't know if I can ever believe that Mary remained a virgin her entire life. And they'll say, well, she had to because she was holy and she was the mother of God and all this other stuff. Guys, she was Jewish. You're not married if you're a Jew unless you're getting it in. All right? You're just not. And we know, according to the scriptures, Christ had brothers and sisters. Christ rejected Mary twice immediately in the scriptures. I'm not saying this is evidence for other things. I'm just saying he came to her at the wedding party, or she came to him, and he said, now is not my time. The time hasn't come yet, woman. Leave me be. He didn't exactly adore her or something. And the other time, specifically, until she reappears at the Passion, at the cross, and Christ gives John the duty to take care of her. Before that, Jesus is teaching, and it's very early on in his ministry, and people say, look, your mother and your brother and sisters have come for you. And he says, who is my mother and my brother and my sister? Those of you who are with me. So he's already setting up foundational theology, right? So he rejects his family there. It says that his family said that they believed he was beside himself. It's kind of a euphemistic way, from my understanding, in the ancient days, of saying that someone was potentially schizophrenic. Now, why would they think that he was potentially schizophrenic? Well, they probably caught Jesus talking to God quite a bit, I would assume, and hearing things and maybe seeing things even. It's hard to say. But the evidences that later come about for the whole Marian thing is hundreds of years after Scripture, right? And again, people thought Mary was special. Of course, she had to be a very holy. I don't think God would have. You think God would have picked a horrible, sinful, evil person? No. That that would have been. I mean, Christ already had the world stacked against him. It's very poor, very poor. Don't presume that Christ had a lavish life, guys. He would have been a low class worker, a day worker, if you would. China is going to take over parts of Africa mainly for minerals. Yeah, they've been taking over Africa. Did you mean Afghanistan, Dahari? Uh, Glover does better with standardized ammunition and tanks, but I'm being pedantic and grasping at straws. Well, York, that's not really being that pedantic. I mean, I said they're really great at making war. China will easily pay off some of the leaders of a few small countries and move right in cobalt EVs and battery dependent. Dahari said both. Yes. Okay. Just to throw it out there, God is an alien because he is not a terrestrial being. So by that logic, ancient aliens. I actually agree. It's usually my first argument. I start talking to someone who thinks that, like, oh, you believe in all these, you believe in angels and all these, other things. And I'm like, do you believe in you believe in multiple dimensions and the potential of life outside of Earth? Okay, so we believe in the same thing. It's all in how you're conceptualizing it. Now, I think angels are something like an interdimensional beings. We call them spirit beings. That's just a way to understand it. By the way, I was thinking about this earlier, just random thought. Inspired, when you're inspired by something like the scriptures, for instance, that word comes from being inspirated, being breathed into by a spirit. Our very language, and all language, the way that we look and view the world is based in religious themes. It's based in these hierarchies of various archetypes, right? And God and Christ that is the ultimate archetype of the perfection of man. And again, this is the stuff that's part of a problem with our world today, that we're losing it because we're losing our identity because we've become too individualistic. I'm fine with people being individualistic. There has to be a thread of cohesion, some sort of thread. Religion, philosophy, creed, something. And we don't have that. And so everyone's confused, and all of our children are confused, and no one's doing the right thing, and everyone's going along with the crowd. There used to be a point when we used to teach children that going along with the crowd was not a good thing to do. Mary was at the foot of the cross as with Jesus' tomb. No, Mary Magdalene was at Jesus' tomb, I believe, not Mary, his mother. There are like 15 Marys in the New Testament, and people get them confused quite often. But she was, in John's account, at the cross, and Christ took her, or told him to take her, and by tradition, John moved to Smyrna, the church of Smyrna, which later Polycarp took over, and that's where Mary finished out her life. There is no, Polycarp probably knew Mary at some point. There's no account that I've seen that Polycarp wrote or anyone wrote around that time that Mary was taken up like Elijah or Enoch. Yet that is the teaching. So again, I'm going to have to find out things. I'm going to have to talk. I'm going to have to be somewhat open-minded. But in the end, I cannot violate my own conscience, so I can't join a church. But I'm there for spiritual leadership, like I said, because they do. I watch a lot of Orthodox stuff, and Orthodox stuff has been coming into my life over and over again. I'm trying to support a Orthodox congressional candidate, and my podcast co-host, producer. Well, really, he just shows up. He doesn't do much, but he did a lot in the beginning. But Tank's good people, so I would never dare kick him off. But yes, he's Orthodox. I've just had this coming to me over and over again. It's either that or I'm going to end up being an Anabaptist. I don't know. Whoa, what was that? Values, morals, biblical traditions, and belief in general. Yeah. Yeah, William Lane Craig's all right. I like his philosophical views. Like, he does epistemology really well, I think. Guys like him, Ravi Zacharias, stuff like that. But the problem that I see with them is they get confused too sometimes. They do send mixed messages. It's a problem with Protestantism. Protestantism is especially in America is not well rooted because it doesn't have that proper hierarchy. And I'm not even saying these guys are awful men or they're not godly men or anything like that. I'm just saying that he's not always my cup of tea. No, I reject Calvinism outright out of hand, but I'll listen to some Calvinist ministers on occasion. Like, I really like Paul Washer. I think he's a really, really powerful minister. And man, is he passionate. And I watched a thing of his the other day. I didn't watch the whole thing. And he's like, I have the most grave thing that I have to tell you, the most important thing, because this is about your everlasting soul. And if you don't get right with God, you're going to be, and I'm like, man. And I don't focus on that stuff. I don't focus on hell or any of that kind of stuff. I don't focus on judgment, but yeah, I think he's quite a powerful minister, preacher. And he preaches like he doesn't believe in Calvinism, but I don't know. Who's that guy in New York? I can't think of his name. He's a big one. Anyways, he's another Calvinist. I'll watch every now and again if I had a name to him. It's not Piper. It's the world's a name. Whatever. So, but I have an understanding. I think that this is historically correct about almost everything. The further away you get from the source material in history, the more corrupt it becomes. And so the church would suggest, the Catholics and the Orthodox, that but because their tradition goes back, that was always part of the tradition, that these things could kind of evolve to some degree, I guess. Again, I'm not trying to make a straw man or a steel man of their argument. This is just my understanding of it. The Hari said, Tank? Yes, Tank is an Orthodox. FTW. I don't know if I'm hip enough to know what FTW means. She meant WTF. American Protestantism is ANCAP philosophy of Christendom because everyone wants to do what they want and be left alone. Yeah, but the problem is then you have people arguing about scripture from people's different perspectives and interpretations. That's just, you can't have that, man. You have to have unity. There has to be some guiding line. I would agree with you, that the scripture is it. But then people look at scripture and they read it differently. It took me reading the early church fathers and listening to an Anabaptist who was in Orthodoxy some years ago to have my eyes opened. And I was listening to a lot of Paul Washer back then too. I was listening to a couple of people back then, but I had to have my eyes open of the simplistic understanding. And don't get me wrong, the scriptures are deep. They're it's very meta. There's multiple levels of understanding. But you have to understand, if you are going to save someone from damnation, if you're going to save their soul, if you're going to unite them with God, however you want to put it, you can't make that complicated. It might be complicated in the mystery of it or whatever, right? But you can't make that a complicated thing, because if you're sitting there going, well, well, we don't have free will, but we do, but we don't. And then, God goes ahead and God's mean and evil in Calvinism, and all these other things. And it's all this confusing stuff. Why would God be the author of evil and then do all these things? And it's like, if it's illogical, I don't think it works out. It went, by the way, I'll give you the correct understanding of predestination. It's pretty simple. God predestined, he preordained a place for those who would follow him, period. He didn't preordain anyone to follow him. He said, those who would come follow me, I elected at the beginning. That is a that's a reference to that preordination of going to, his father's mansion, as he would say, going to the many houses. That's what predestination is. Oh, my wife is calling me. Hopefully she's all right. She can send me a text. She's probably just in New York with her mama. Yeah. Is that a question to Hari? Are there different types of, or there are different types of Protestantism? Dude, Protestantism is not really it's like technically you have the Anglican Church, the Presbyterians, the Methodists, Lutherans, you have the Calvinists, but then there's all the independent churches, right? All the independent churches that aren't affiliated with anybody, or the Southern Baptist Convention, which is not really affiliated. They're affiliated, but there's no real overarching power structure. One thing that I think the Orthodox do get right is the clergy at the highest position believes that they are the servant of all, and the ecclesia, the laity, the lay people, they are actually the master of all, because Christ said he came to this earth to serve. They understand that properly. They understand a lot of stuff properly, from what I get. It's just other things. And I always say on here, they take it from 4th, 5th, 6th century or later documents. And it's like, okay, well, I don't really care about what the church taught 500-600 years after Christ. I mean, 200 years, 250 years, something like that, after Christ died, the Pope at the time was teaching, hey, you can go have sex with your slaves if you want. I don't think that would have pleased Christ too well. These 17 different types of Protestantism in the United States. Yep. All right. Seventh-day Adventists. Yeah, and they're Protestants, but they started like around the 18 or 1700s. They're part of the Great Awakening. They're the early 1800s, but Ellen G. White, predicted the coming of Christ, and that didn't happen. Just like the scriptures say. Yeah, I mean, you do you do where you feel comfortable. I just, I'm definitely not the smartest guy in the world, but I'm definitely a thinking guy, and I'm a pretty smart guy. And I because God said so or the church says so is not an answer. Some things I can accept as mysteries. Anyways, let's do some Festivus. That was a long chat. Festivus for the rest of us. So, Dr. Senator Rand Paul, he talked about, or he did his annual Festivus report. And if you didn't know, part of Festivus is airing your grievances. So the total number of government overspending that he tallied was 52 billion 580 or sorry 98 million 115,585, right? It's like, I know the government spends that in 2 seconds, but that's still a lot of money. So if you look it up, you can find it pretty easily. It's 43 pages. That's not something we're going to be able to go through, right? Not today. Maybe we could. But we'll look at some of the highlights here. Dr. Paul's 2021 airing of spending grievances. In this report, you find what does government waste mean for you? What could the government have paid for instead? The waste of 2021, spending solutions, what Dr. Paul has been up to this year, and Dr. Paul's big Platinum Pig Awards for wasteful spending for COVID-19, Afghanistan, and miscellaneous. As chairman of the Senate Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs Committee, Subcommittee on Emerging Threats and Spending Overnight, you can keep track of Dr. Paul's efforts to expose government waste and reform and federal spending at ronpaul.com and or paul.senate.gov and whatever this other one is here. It's a little bit too small for me to read. So, emerging threats of spending oversight. So that's that other link there. Anyways, so what does 52 billion mean for you? 52.5 billion, actually. If the waste, almost 52.6. If the waste we find is that the average taxpayer pays about $15,000, so they divided that, and imagine that. You pay $15,000 to the government annually. Isn't that insane? The average citizen, that's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. That is more than what my mortgage is for a year. Granted, I don't have a big mortgage, but still. I mean, when Uncle Sam wasted the taxes of 3,430,636 people, that is roughly the population of Los Angeles, California, Chicago, Illinois, or 50.74 times the size sorry guys. 50.74 times the size of Senator Paul's hometown of Bowling Green, Kentucky. So the question is, what is your money that was wasted? Where did it go? What could it have bought? It could have given every person in the world $6.78. The federal government could have bought everyone a nice latte from Starbucks or something. 13,149 miles of 4-lane highway constructed long enough to cross the United States 5.5 times, or not 5.5 times, 5.26 times, 5.25 times. That wouldn't be a bad idea. Now, maybe we don't need that many times, but maybe twice. And 13,000 miles, I like 13,000 miles. Like, what? Isn't that only 4,000 miles to get to California, or 5,000 at best from where I'm at here on the East Coast? What about north to south? I don't think it's. I mean, maybe if I go as far south as the furthest southern point of Texas or something, but I think it's only like 2,000 miles both ways, right? Maybe it's 3,000. Still, regardless, that might be useful. Might be useful. We didn't do that though. And we weren't about to do that with any Build Back Better bill either. 4.5 months of operating the VA. Man, the VA is horrible. And that is how much money, like a third of the year cost? Wow. York, can you testify? It's 3,000 miles from LA to New York City. Okay. 3,600 miles. Okay. We don't do kilometers here in the United States. Screw off, Tahari. Give me that metric stuff. Who gets the contract? Yeah, no doubt. Actually, the first transatlantic railroad, or transcontinental Yeah, that's right. In North America, it was done privately while 4 other railroads were competing to do it, subsidized by the federal government. Anyways, 1 year and 8 months of funding the Department of Energy. That's that's a department we can get rid of. Hey, I just found out how we could save another $52 billion, guys. We just get rid of that Department of Energy thing. Uh, yeah, so foreign countries use our aircraft for free for 4 years. 773 million. US bought Afghanistan planes that were later thrown away. 549 million. You know how much land I could buy with this? Dude, I just saw a tract of land that was over 2,000 acres for just around a couple mil. And I'm like, that is really cheap. And I can do a lot with that. You know, if I had the money to invest. U.S. constructed buildings in Afghanistan set sitting unsued. That's $2 billion. Speaking of that land thing, this is the one thing I guess Tim Pool's got it going on, but just to mention because I watch him pretty regularly. You know, Tim's building some compound or whatever, but he was talking about how he couldn't get land or how I don't understand what he was talking about. And I know Tim's got money. That guy's making mad money on the super chats. So you know, nothing wrong with that. You know, it is what it is. He's got his hustle and he works hard. And you know, and he keeps hiring people. He's got a 30-man some odd crew and it's going to keep expanding. I think good on him. He's 35 years old and he's building a media empire. I think it is amazing. So whether you think he's Tim Fool or Dim Fool or whatever, you know, whatever. He's doing a lot. He's doing a lot more than a lot of you. So but I don't understand what he was saying about not being able to find spots because I'm looking at land all the time. COVID relief grant for New York to display art projects across the city, 25 million. Ineligible and duplicate PPP loans, 4.29 billion. Improper CARES Act employment insurance payouts. Oh my goodness, it's 36 billion. Construction border wall in the Middle East and North Africa. 250 million. And 250 million for border walls in other nations, folks. Free trips for Korean kids to visit DC. I'll take that $150,000. I'd be good with that. Just give me that. I'll find a way to work that into something else. Freaking free trip. Our government, all expense paid trip for you. Come over from Korea. Come see the capital. Come see where democracy takes place. Grinding up ferrets to develop COVID and flu vaccines. That's something my wife's work's probably on. Fauci and their ridiculous animal experiments. That's 4 million. Tax credit incentivizes CA residents, California residents to uninstall fireplaces. $2 million. What? Because of fires? Because of wildfires, maybe? How about forest management? How about you could have spent that money on forest management? But you know, I don't think the federal government should be sending money to the states and certain projects like this, generally speaking. Translating books into the Georgian language. That wasn't that expensive. I don't know why they'd want to do that for Georgia, but okay. Teaching French about U.S. culture. Again, those are like $182,000, $200,000. Still, I could use that money. Why are these foreigners getting my money? Because that's what it is. It's your money too. All the while, we have mass inflation. And, you know, we have some issues with jobs right now, although people are starting to go back to work. But more importantly, gas prices are way up. There's supply chain shortage that's artificial. And the Great Reset is afoot, even though the Build Back Better bill went down in flames. Giving irrigation systems to Afghan farmers left unused. 88 million. I could use 88 million too. I'm pretty sure if I had $88 million, I would never need to work again in my life. Developing a film about dinosaurs to inspire middle-class schoolers or middle-class schoolers. See what I do? See what happens? Class wasn't in there. Pigeon playing slot machines. The NIH funded pigeons playing slot machines to see, I don't know what, to see what pigeon playing slot machines does. What is this? It's $500,000 for that. Nearly $500,000. Telling people not to burn their trash. $11 million. Sorry, you live out in the country. That's what you do. You know, I don't even have to live that far out in the country. Funding green energy programs in Africa. Green energy programs in Africa. Not here in the U.S., which I'm not for government subsidies anyways. Grants are okay in my book to some degree. They're kind of a way to maybe redistribute the wealth that I'm not so fond of, but you know, at least it's like a one-time thing, right? But that's for individuals or someone who wants to maybe start up a business as an individual, not like this. But funding green energy programs in Africa, come on. How about let's understand that Africa is called a dark continent for a reason, right? It isn't because black people live there, by the way. It's because there's no infrastructure. There is more infrastructure now. It's still highly developing, and more or less, it's been held out from the globalist as a resource mine. So, you know, because imperialism, as far as what it once was, is now just a global effort, right? DC Metro paid Lyft to subsidize riders, $28,000. I don't know why they would do that, but I do know this. I could use $28,000, man. Who couldn't use an extra $28,000? Attempting to replace an assault vehicle over 2 decades. Okay. Attempting to replace, yeah. See, we're not even reading the details here. That was $3 billion. $14 million to funding the Wilson Center to put on parties for congressmen. $14 million. And I can tell you, folks, I've been to galas, private ones, mind you, private ones, and they're pretty posh. And dinners are expensive. You know, talking about, you know, $150 a plate stuff. And important people were there. So, trust me, when they're doing this, they're going all out. And we can see that. The $14 million, they spared no expense. Study verified that hearing bad news decreases happiness levels. I'm glad that study was done. I'm glad that I would have no idea that when someone got bad news, they decreased in their happiness. Thank the state, I should say. Thank the state. I was going to say thank the Lord, but I can't. I don't. Forgive me, Father. Don't do that. Thank the state for their wisdom in doing a study to verify that bad news makes people depressed. It only cost $1.3 million. This is insane. It's insane. Planting trees in New York City. $400 million. New York City. New York City. You know, where Wall Street is, all that wealth, whatever. $400 million that they taxed from you so they could plant trees. Government paid for students who didn't actually attend those schools. Yeah, that was, where was that at? I had saw about this, but specifically, it might have been in New York or DC or somewhere like that. But they were padding the school numbers in the grades to get funds. So that was $2 million that the government scammed from the government. Kids crave junk food and gain weight if they're exposed to it. $352,000. There's a piece of property I just saw that's 60 acres. That's about $250,000, and that extra $100,000 would help me develop it a little bit. Put some buildings on there or whatever I might want. But we had to figure out if junk food and weight gain and cravings had anything to do with each other. Getting high schoolers excited about airplane pilots. Okay. That's 5 million. Fattening eels for human consumption from the FDA. There's part of that subsidization. I would assume, I don't know why the FDA was involved with that, but there must be some sort of eel farming for like sushi, most likely. And the FDA regulates it and gave them some sort of grant or something. Came up with a grant. I don't know. It's in this. This does have the breakdown of these things. Social Security overpayments to beneficiaries and the fiscal year 2019, $4 billion. 4.2 actually. They're old though. I'm not going to complain about them. I'm not going to complain about them getting extra money from the government. I really don't actually. I prefer that citizens get extra money. It's not fair that we don't all get a share, but So Tim problems with the land was that he wants to do and zoning right. No, it's not. No. Unless it's where he has a spot, which I think he's not going too far. If he went like down where you're going to be at, you wouldn't have to deal with any of that because there's almost no zoning laws in West Virginia. Almost any area that has zoning laws has it's usually in town. So much so that for a while there was like a gay strip club right next to the elementary school, right near where I live. Now it's gone and it's dilapidated and whatever else, but literally right beside the elementary school. And well, the secondary schools, they call it here, because we have primary and secondary. They split it up. Whereas when I went to Maryland, elementary is all one level. But in any case, and then there's a Walmart across the street. So, and then right behind it, a residential neighborhood. And then right beside that, no joke, a factory. So there's no zoning laws. Bill Gates is your landlord now. Dun, dun, dun. He would need to go to Utah, Idaho, or somewhere to get out of the swath of land. What are you talking about? You talking about me? The land I was talking about? The 2,000 acres? No, this is in West Virginia, man. There's all kinds of land here. This is waiting to be developed. Someone with money is going to do it long before I can get anything started. But I would like to get a free state movement going on here. Not for secession per se, but to nullify and ignore the feds. Help air quality. Nice. The TPP is all about tax monies going overseas, which is basically our government hiding tax dollars to do with what they want. Well, yeah. Well, foreign aid always goes to warlords. It's always about, greed and rot and money laundering and inflation. Because as this goes on, guys, like the America becomes weaker and weaker. And like I said in the beginning of this, I really do believe now they had to accelerate things because the slow process, the slow boiling frog process, right, of Americans becoming poorer and poorer and poorer, got reversed. It got reversed under Trump to some degree, and it was just too good. And they can't have that because they need America. The idea is basically not to bring the world all the way up to America, but to bring America down to the rest of the world and them up. So it's kind of like, we're balancing it out at the same time. At least that's my understanding of it. True. I'll give you that. They have more infrastructure than North Korea. They also have huge jungles and deserts and all that stuff. All news comes with a price. All right. So let me check entropy real quick. All right. I know I'm bad checking chat, guys, but I do go over there and check every now and again. So the Festivus report, first place champion, $40 billion and counting. SBA watchdog found at least 4.29 billion in bad loans out of the Paycheck Protection Program. Nuh-uh. I mean, we saw this several times where people woke up as far as bailout payments, woke up with millions of dollars in their bank account, right? In March 2020, government imposed lockdowns had just begun. Remember 14 days to stop the spread? Nobody knew what would happen to small businesses after state and local governments effectively criminalized commerce. Yeah, they just locked a lady up for it. Talked about it last week. Judge said, how dare you? How dare you not listen to the executive orders that are completely not legal and the authority of the state? That woman was dumb. Should not have represented herself, though. Don't ever represent yourself, folks. Even if you're a lawyer. Very rarely does that go well. More than 3.6 billion of the PPP loans SBA sent out went to those on the Treasury's do not pay list. So the Treasury has a do not pay list because they know that they're fraudsters, and they spent $3.6 billion on the people on their list that they're not supposed to pay ever. The DMP list lets agencies check payment receipts to ensure money goes to people who are eligible, like people who aren't convicted fraudsters. But the SBA didn't use the DPN list. The SBA OIG also found 692 million went to duplicate loans, meaning they double dipped, right? Paid them out twice. And anyways, this goes on about all that stuff. I think, guys, I am going to try and get out of here, but I did want to talk about, where am I at here? Feudalism and the Great Reset real quick. So let me get this going. There's more baby for you.
You will come get me?
She likes growling. She's like a predator. Speaking of which, I've been giving her food, like real food, table food, right? Tiny pieces, not mashed up, just food, and she can, gnaw on it, and she's all right. And she's got a tooth edge. I think she might have 2 teeth coming in, actually, but not that that's like that effective. But she can gum at it, and it'll dissolve every time. It'll break up. Well, gave her a sweet potato the other day, spit it out immediately. Gave her a green bean. My dad makes pretty good green beans. Made some the other night. She chewed on it for a little bit, spit it out. I forget what else I've given her. Anything basically that's a vegetable of some sort or starch, doesn't want it. You know what she has eaten? Well, on Christmas Eve, we had lamb, and she really liked the lamb. We had brunch at my sister's yesterday morning, and she loved the smoked salmon, and she loved the ham. I gave her, what did I give her? I gave her some sort of fruit, I think. Something tart, and she spit that out right away. So the only other thing that I know that she's like, oh, she ate, my wife and I got lunch the other day. So she ate a piece of orange. And I think that was Christmas Eve too. So we were starving. We had to get, busy, stop to get lunch, basically. So she ate a little bit of an orange, so she liked that. And I'll let her eat, like, munch on, like, taste apples and pears, like when I eat them. But that's it. So I'm just saying, I'm not forcing this. I'm going to watch this. I'm going to observe this. My wife's doing what's called baby led weaning, but every now and again, I'm just introducing my daughter to food to see what she likes. And it seems like meat and fruit. It's almost like she knows what's good for her. Almost like when I was talking about diet on the channel, that I might have had some reason to believe that. But again, I'm letting her try food. She can eat what she likes. She's choosing meat and fruit right now. Not very much fruit. All right. So Festivus. I had this pulled up and we're done. We're done. Let's go here to feudalism. And why do I bring up a wiki article about feudalism? I do this just to be like, here it is. It's wiki regardless, but here are the basics, guys. The feudal system is what basically was the not just the way things were during the medieval period, although that's usually how it's framed. It's the way things were throughout most of history, as long as there was some sort of monarchical power. And basically you have a system that is set up around military protection and set up that those who were able to gain wealth to get enough land became the lords of the land, and that because they own it, you owe fealty to them, right? Here it says, broadly defined, it was a way of structuring society around relationships that were derived from the holding of land in exchange for service or labor. Okay. Let me explain it to you. Landlords been around probably since the beginning of time. Like you can rent a room out to anybody, right? But this is a form of socialism and slavery. And what it does is it makes the Lord responsible for all people in his land, and all people in his land responsible for the Lord. So you create a collective that way. And then the people who live on the land, well, they're serfs. They can't really gain wealth, and they owe you fealty. And if they don't provide it, well, you just get rid of them generally. So, although it was derived from Latin word feudum or fief, which was used during the Middle Age period, the term feudalism and the system which it describes were not conceived as a formal political system by the people who lived during the Middle Ages. The classic definition by Francisco Luis Groshoff or Ganshoff describes a set of reciprocal legal and military obligations which existed among the warrior nobility and revolved around the three key concepts of lords, vassals, and fiefs. Now, I know the left likes to say things like, ooh, real socialism's never been tried before. It's never been tried. Real communism's never been tried. But I want to explain to you that there was a group of city-states that existed about 2,500 years ago. Yeah, about that long ago. A little bit before that, they they existed, but they didn't have a lot of power. Those things take time. I might not have my dates completely accurate because I'm not a I'm not particularly well versed with the exact numbers, but about 2,500 years ago to 3,000 years ago, around the Aegean Sea, there was a group of city-states, and there were a bunch of people that were call themselves Greeks. And one of these city-states was known as Sparta. And in Sparta, they had a perfect socialistic system in which everyone was a warrior. And in order to make that system work, they enslaved the surrounding tribes and made them do all of their menial tasks. It is no different than this, except for maybe if you were a serf and you had some extra food, and maybe if you had enough money for a cart or animal or something, maybe you could take it to a market somewhere and sell it. Maybe. The broader definition of feudalism as described by Mark Bloch includes not only the obligations of the warrior nobility, but the obligations of all three estates of the realm: the nobility, the clergy, and the peasantry, all of whom are bound by a system of manorialism. This is sometimes referred to as feudal society. And then it says, since the publication of Elizabeth A. Brown's The Tyranny of Construct and Susan Reynolds' Fiefs and Vassals, female scholars, I don't really know if we should listen to them. I don't know. There has been ongoing inclusive discussion among medieval historians as to whether feudalism is a useful construct for understanding medieval society. Okay, good for you. So manorialism is basically feudalism, but I'll click on it. Click on it to go down the rabbit hole real quick. Also known as the manor sister, manorial system was a method of land ownership or tenure in parts of Europe, notably England, where the Middle Ages is, or during the Middle Ages, its defining features included a large, sometimes fortified manor house in which the lord of the manor and his dependents and administrators lived and administered a rural estate, and a population of laborers who worked the surrounding land to support themselves and the Lord. These laborers fulfilled their obligations with labor time or in kind produce at first, and later by cash payments as commercial activity increased. So they get cash payments, but remember, in this system, it all comes down to the Lord. The Lord is the one who owns the land. The Lord decides if he wants to rent it or not. And think about how the left talks about landlords today. But they want the government to be your landlord. But in this kind of system, if you didn't have land to work, you didn't have anything. Of course, there were merchants, and of course, there were craftsmen and stuff. But that was a small fraction of the folks. And by the way, merchants and craftsmen more or less generally made up the what was the little bit of middle class that there was. Because lords would have been, compared to a king or whatever, they would have been like not nearly as rich, but they would have been quite wealthy, and everyone else was just extremely poor. So yes, these laborers fulfill their obligations with labor time and kind produce at first, and later by cash payments as commercial activity increased. Manorialism is sometimes included in the definition of feudalism, and it originated in the Roman villa system of late Roman Empire and was widely practiced in medieval and western parts of the Central Europe. An essential element of the feudal system, manorialism, was slowly replaced by the advent of money-based market economy and new forms of agrarian contract, meaning free markets led to free people. And why did I read this? Well, the Roman villa and the Roman villa system, you can see in this picture here, was a house that owned whatever business, but they had family, they had a good name, a good reputation, they were honorable, right? And slaves ran everything for their house. The Romans got so rich in the late period that they gave away grain to the poorest of Roman citizens. They didn't have to pay for anything. They were just given it. And it was all because of slavery. Because slave labor you can use however you like. Think about Spartacus, the TV series, if you've never seen it. I particularly am a fan of the prequel Blood and Sand, I think it is, and then I don't really the rest of the show. It's all right, but that was like the first season, and then the one where they went back and made like a prequel series because the lead actor got cancer. I thought was really good, but you can, given it's a drama, you can see to some degree how that lifestyle was, and it's the same thing with feudalism. No one would argue that in the Roman system that they were enslaving people. Yeah, they were indentured servants, right? Or are you saying in a way, not by the definition of U.S.? Yeah, yeah. Hello, nerd chat. Matt says, "Hey, I got an anti-commie here." Anti-commie, if you're still here, you ought to let me know. If you're busy Wednesday night, maybe you can co-host with me on the Ends Justify the Memes. If you're not still in work, I understand. If you are doing your Fed things. So with feudalism comes neo-feudalism, and that's really what we're looking at the system. So I often will say communism, socialism. I use these terms interchangeably because I don't really like the differences are so nominal to me. It's so absurd. We're talking about process differences. Mind you, I get like, the ends do not justify the means. Means, same thing. But that's the thing, is that that's what they're generally arguing about is that their process is better than this process, and we don't want it this way or that way. What they want is collective ownership, the ownership of no property. They want slavery. They want elite classes. There's all that. It all exists in every socialist society, and it's backwards. It's going back in time, not forward. These aren't progressives. So neo-feudalism or new feudalism is a theorized contemporary rebirth of policies of governance, economy, and public life, reminiscent of those which were present in many feudal societies. Such aspects include, but are not limited to, unequal rights and legal protections for common people and for nobility, dominance of societies by small and powerful elite groups, and relations of lordship and serfdom between the rich and the poor. Does this sound like the way our system is going? It's returning to. I mean, it's like I said about money and power and influence and options and variety. These people are the ones shaping policy. And I'm not saying all wealthy people are evil either. I'm just saying when you're comfortable and you're scared, you have money, you don't understand, you're going to vote in idiots. When you're me or you, I'm assuming most of you listen to me are not very wealthy, that you're I mean, maybe some of you, got pretty good jobs, but I'm going to assume you're not making, $250,000, $300,000 a year and have a ton of a disposable income, right? So they don't care about the people making $100,000 or less unless they get them hooked on the dole, right? And then people don't get off that because if they get a real job, then they actually make less money than what they're getting on welfare often. It's a sad thing. So generally, the term refers to a new form of feudalism akin to, in some respect, to what was seen in medieval Europe. Yeah, we just read that. But unfolding as a emerging phenomenon in modern times. In its early use, the term was adopted by both criticisms of political left and right. Yes, but it's primarily a left concept. The early example critical of the left is in the essay Neo-Feudalism by John Kenneth Galbraith, I guess, published in 1961. On the other hand, Jorgen Habermas used the term refeudalization, refeudalization is the translation from the German. I believe that's German. Could be some Germanic language other than Dutch. The Germans. In 1962, the structural transformation of the public sphere is critical. The privatization of the forms of communication that he believed had produced the Enlightenment era public sphere. While not talking about neo-feudal, excuse me, guys, I will get off here soon. By the way, I do want to show you a few articles about the Great Reset, though. While not talking about neo-feudalism as such, later commenters have noted that these ideas are similar to the ideas of neo-feudalism, corresponding to 1992's Immanuel Wallerstein's expressed view on global development, listing neo-feudalism among three other variants. By neo-feudalism, Wallerstein referred to autarky, regions with a localized hierarchy and high-tech goods available for the elite. So what they're saying is, in this one book, this guy was talking about neo-feudalism, but he never said neo-feudalism. And then Wallerstein, I guess, compared it, and he said, well, no, this is exactly what's going to happen with you have a technocracy. So autarky, if you guys didn't know, we'll go through this, is a characteristic of self-sufficiency, which is a good thing. Usually applies to societies, communities, states, and their economic systems. It's the idea or method that has been embraced by a wide range of political ideologies and movements, especially left-wing ideologies, including African socialism, mutualism, war communism, council communism, communalism, Swadeshi syndicalism, especially anarcho-syndicalism. Interesting things to read about, by the way. And left populism, generally in an effort to build alternative economic structures or to control resources against structures a particular movement views as hostile. Yes, this is what the left does. They're all a bunch of hippies, a bunch of dirty hippies that go live out in the middle of the woods. And now the right's want to do that too. And we have to for our own survival. And it's not even that I fear that I will be hunted down, although that's a high likelihood in the future, I think. It's because I want the ideas and the morals and the values that I espouse to survive for generations to come. This isn't about me now. I mean, it is a little bit, but it's about the future and the generations to come. And for me, personally, the way I see, or at least my whatever role I have in this thing that I don't fully understand, is I want to have people prepared for the hard times coming and the return of Christ even. I don't know when that's going to be. I'm not making a prediction about it. I'm just saying, seems ever more and more likely as the days progress. It says, generally in an effort to build alternative economic structures that control resources against structures a particular movement views as hostile. Conservative, centrist, and nationalist movements have also adopted autarky in an attempt to preserve as a part of an existing social order or develop a particular industry. Some right-wing populist and far-right movements occasionally espouse it as a goal. Well, of course, it should be a goal. That's what nationalism is. Doesn't mean you don't trade elsewhere, but you have to be self-sufficient, of course. So it goes on, yada, yada, yada. I just figured I'd bring that up if you didn't know the word. But again, I brought it up because of leftism. So we go through here on neo-feudalism. Okay, I didn't want this one. I thought I'd just click that off. My bad, guys. In popular culture and literature, we have, after the financial crisis in 2000 and 2008, or 2007 to 2008, American technological billionaires Nick Hanauer stated that our country is rapidly becoming less a capitalist society and more a feudalist society. Well, somebody understands what's going on. His views were echoed by, amongst others, the Icelandic billionaire. Don't even ask me to pronounce that, guys. Bjorg Glorforg Thor Gerborg. Dorka. Swedish chef. Anyways, whatever that says, the idea that the early 21st century boom and bust in Iceland saw the country's return to a feudal structure of power was also expressed by a range of Icelandic novels. Okay, so this idea was going on. What I find really interesting, it talks about Frank Herbert's Dune, which it purely neo-feudalistic. I mean, but then you get down here and it says, in the year 2020, head of the World Economic Forum, Klaus Schwab, published a book titled COVID-19 and the Great Reset. The book argues that the COVID-19 pandemic is an opportunity for politicians and governments to change the world's economies, societies, and structures of government by introducing a system of stakeholder capitalism, doing so via the guidelines of a plan known as the Great Reset. Just a conspiracy theory, though, guys. It doesn't really exist. Schwab also refers to his goal as the Fourth Industrial Revolution. Various pop-up authors have criticized the Great Reset as being a form of neo-feudalism. Of course it is. When you click on this, though, page hasn't been created yet. Say what? That's been out for year and a half now. Year and a half, not quite 2 years. Maybe it has been. I can't remember. When did he publish it? It's like March or April of 2020, I think. So we're getting close to 2 years. And same with this. That seems really weird to me. Of course, the Great Reset has an article. Redirect from Great Reset. The Great Reset is the name of the 50th annual meeting of the World Economic Forum, held in June 2020. Oh, that's all it was. It was just the name of their meeting. So, what do I got here? Well, if you type some weird stuff in because you can't spell, you might get this. No, it's actually WEF, World Economic Forum, letter to Netherlands. Boy, oh boy. So, there was Koof stuff I kind of wanted to talk about, but I'm not, whatever. I don't really care. I'm going to talk about this, and I'm going to get out of here, guys, because I'm already 3 hours and 10 minutes in. So, mind you, like 3-4 minutes of that's my intro, but so fact check. World Economic Forum letter shows 51st annual meeting invites. Okay. Invitation for Dutch politicians to the World Economic Forum summit have been misrepresented online to claim that they are leaked letters and evidence of street collusion between the Swiss organization, or secret collusion, and the Swiss organization and the Dutch government to push the Great Reset, a proposed economic plan at the center of the widespread conspiracy theorists. What? Seriously? Like, really? Like, Reuters, do your freaking job. Seriously. You're supposed to be like the standard. You really are. You're supposed to be the standard bearer of journalism, and you haven't been. You're lacking, bud. You're not doing very good. But, yeah. It's just a conspiracy theory.
This global pandemic has also created an opportunity to build back better. Building back better. This pandemic has provided an opportunity for a reset. This is our chance to accelerate our pre-pandemic efforts.
Now we have to accelerate because we are living the consequences of basically climate disorder. It's time to rush. President Biden is 100% right to do so.
Last week, I shared the outlines of my plan to build back better.
It's about building this country back better.
better.
As Europeans, we increased our targets for 2030 and 2050 a few months ago. We need India and China to be with us. With Chancellor Merkel, we had a discussion with President Xi.
The Great Reset.
And I think we fought the commitment of President Xi on climate to work with the US and with Europe.
Yeah. How about some more of that?
To work with the US and with Europe. First, to accelerate this target of 2030.
Our strongest beliefs are challenged by the rise of a yet unknown new world order.
A new world order that China has to be part of the process of creating it, and they have to buy in. They have to own it. Really need to bring China into the creation of a world order.
Partnership and cooperation among nations is not a choice. It is the only way. Now is the time to join together through constant cooperation and strong institutions and shared sacrifice and a global commitment to progress to meet the challenges of the 21st century.
Build it back better.
We must build back better.
Build back
Better. Matt, if you got an echo, my mic was muted automatically because I uploaded that into StreamYards. So, don't know what to tell you. Don't know what to tell you with the echo, guys. Wasn't me. StreamYards. My mic was muted. Anyways, you've seen them say these things. So, this article talks about it. A government document confirms Great Reset conspiracy theory is real. We don't need a document when they're public and open about it. Like, do you guys not remember that freaking John Kerry openly talked about the Great Reset and that we would go through a Great Reset and we would build back better? Normal wasn't working, said John Kerry. John Kerry reveals Biden's devotion to radical Great Reset movement. What conspiracy theory? The gaslighting is insane, and you will know people that will tell you that this is a conspiracy theory. John Kerry, Davos, and the Great Reset. Last year, the World Economic Forum, Davos, announced that it was launching what it's most modestly referred to as the Great Reset Initiative. There is an urgent need for global stakeholders to cooperate and simultaneously manage the direct consequences of the COVID-19 crisis. So the global stakeholders, folks, are your landlords. These companies, these corporations are your landlords now. And this is why you'll own nothing and you'll be happy, because they're going to take care of you. And this neo-feudalistic, fascistic, authoritarian nonsense. I mean, Klaus Schwab has literally written that he thinks that the 21st century was too libertarian. The 20th century, my friends, the one we just lived through, the one I was born at the end of, like many of you, was too libertarian. That was probably the most authoritarian century in humanity. What is he talking about? 250, 300 million, 400 million people died of democide. Probably more, 500 million. I don't even know. And this is what they say, though. The content of the letter by the World Economic Forum is misrepresented to show that the conspiracy theory is real. December 2021, several media posts and fringe news websites claimed that leaked letters from the World Economic Forum confirmed the Great Reset was no longer a conspiracy theory. Never was a conspiracy theory. There's no conspiracy theory to it. When the people were saying, this is what we're doing, the World Economic Forum was so self-aware of this that they put it in their own propaganda piece, being like, I know a lot of people think it's a conspiracy theory, but sorry, it was like, I'm pretty sure it was a British lady speaking. So, you can go check it out. I played it on here before. It's right on their YouTube page. The recent claims state the official document sent by the World Economic Forum to Pepijn van Hol. Oh man, a Dutch minister. They're trying to read Dutch names. Jeez, you people with your other languages. Mention the word Great Reset. The claim gives no further context and is therefore misleading. The letter's contents from the World Economic Forum to Dutch minister have been misrepresented over and over again. Notice the letter's not in this article. So Paul Joseph Watson did a video on this. Actually didn't mean to bring this up. It was just in my collection of things. So you can watch his thing if you want. It's actually a pretty good little take, but I thought I did have one that had screenshots in it. Documents prove the Dutch government is colluding with the World Economic Forum to implement the Great Reset. But, I've been streaming for over 3 hours now, and I probably got about 4 hours of sleep. And here we go. So, the Bruins' response to the Van Halloween question 8 to 12 included a list of 7 sets of attachments consisting of World Economic Forum correspondence with all these people, right? They're going through these questions about whatever. How can there be a list of status of cabinet members at the World Economic Forum? Yada, yada, yada. So this says a further reply from Minister De Bruin, Foreign Trade and Development Coordination. This and that. Questions. You can see the written communications. Here we go. Dear so-and-so, on behalf of the Dutch Ministers of Economic Affairs and Climate Policy and Agriculture, Nature and Food Quality, together with regional development agencies, OST LN. This letter provides, prior to the official signing of the letter, further clarification by Dutch authorities on the offer that has been made to the World Economic Forum in order for the Netherlands to be the best suited host for the global coordinating secretaries. The GCS has the aim to support and coordinate the activities of the network of food initiative hubs worldwide. This letter is the result of constructive discussion between representatives of the World Economic Forum, representatives of the Dutch Ministry of Economic Affairs and Climate Policy. So their government is in communication. Plain and simple. We would like to thank you for the opportunity and very much looking forward to our cooperation on behalf of the Minister of Affairs, yada, yada, yada. The letter of intent was signed by Eric Vibes, Dutch Minister in Economic Affairs and Policy, on December 8th, 2020, and by World Economic Forum on January 5th, 2021. Amongst other things, the letter of intent states the Dutch innovation and agricultural policy are very much in line with the topics that they are considered crucial by the WEF for food system transformation. Missions, food system transformation sounds like eat the bugs bigot, but, I don't know. I can't hear leftist dog whistles because I'm not a leftist. Missions have been defined in lines with the SDG, addressing topics like the sustainable circular agriculture, safe, healthy, and affordable food on all climate neutrality, as well as consumer behaviors. There is special attention for development and implementation of key enabling technologies, yada, yada, yada. And here we have again On March 12, 2021, you request on behalf of the World Economic Forum a subsidy of 650,000 euros for the periods of 2021 up to 2023 in connection with the establishment and development of the Netherlands of the Global Coordinating Secretariats, the GCS, in accordance with provisions of the attached collaboration agreement, blah, 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 blah. So you're saying that they're, I mean, but notice all the debunkers, like I said, the debunkers, that's not a debunker. The debunkers don't have the letter in it. They don't have anything. They have jack. Debunked. I think I already closed out Reuters, but doesn't have anything. Anyways, you can probably find this. Here's another one, I believe, that has, I think this one might have the screenshots. 60 organizations release open letter to EU for act. Oh, no. This is related with the ESGs, but I don't think, I mean, you can see it right there because this is the World Economic, this is the World Economic Forum. So they're sitting there saying the same thing the letter says in their own page, but somehow it's a conspiracy theory. Conspiracies abound, folks. They abound. But if you and I sat down and talked together to do something, we are conspiring. It's English. There's a modern connotation for nefarious activities, and I think anything the government conspires to do is nefarious, and especially things that they conspire to do with private citizens that I didn't vote for. And you might say, well, Bill, but you don't vote for the laws in the United States. Actually, we do in states. They're often on ballots. But even if that's not the case, I didn't vote any legislator in to open up myself to a world government. And neither did you. And the people in our governments are supposed to be representing the people in their states, right? So the Congress, the Senate, those folks, the president's supposed to just not represent anybody, even though that's changed over the years, but just execute things, right? Get them done. And of course, there's the bureaucracy, which loves itself, so it'll never go away. That's why we have a deep state. So from the Federalist, it says how Biden is laying the foundation for a great reset of America. Apparently, the Federalists are a bunch of conspiracy theorists, but let's read a little bit of it. Despite the corporate press framing Joe Biden as an ideological martyr, the president has repeatedly called for dramatic policy changes affecting the U.S. economy, many of which are totally out of step with the views of most Americans. The most important of these changes stem from Biden's deep ties to the globalist Great Reset campaign, a movement started mid-2020 by the World Economic Forum. That is actually incorrect, Federalist. This movement was started, Klaus Schwab's been writing about this since the 1970s. This is an offshoot of the UN and the Club of Rome. That's what the World Economic Forum is. World Economic Forum to push the reset button on society and reimagine capitalism. The Great Reset has received the support of numerous world leaders, including Prince Charles, Al Gore, and the heads of the United Nations, International Monetary Fund, and countless multi-international corporations and banks. And there you go, folks. That's all you need to know. And is the Federalist lying? I don't think so. But you can read through this yourself. I'm going to get out of here because I streamed for 3.5 hours today. That's pretty good. I hope you guys had a lovely Christmas. Let me make sure. Thank you. Architect of Fate for $20. Merry Christmas, Bill. It wasn't indentured servitude, but it was also not chattel slavery. Within Roman slavery, slaves could be sued and masters in prisons for mistreatment. Yeah, I think you're neglecting politics there, partner. Because if you you could abuse a slave, depending. They did. The late Roman period was less lawless than the early Roman period. There might have been a higher degree of slave morality at a certain point. And I get, the arguments about chattel slavery being so horrible. Yeah, but chattel slavery wasn't started by the white man either, and it wasn't started by Europeans, and it wasn't Americans that were participating in it alone. And for me, I don't care about the autistic minute distinctions. I am either free or I am a slave. Even if you imprison me, I'll always be free because I'll be free in my mind. But my point is your ability to earn, to make decisions for yourself, to have legal protections, all those things are markers of a free man. I mean, I can make the philosophical argument that no one is really free because we all are contained in our bodies, go along the lines of Socrates, when he drinks the hemlock and all that stuff. I could do all that, but yeah, again, I think when I dress, because it's kind of how my brain works. I work in archetypes and overarching themes. So there may be things that, although I do think accuracy is important, I think sometimes what we do is we go and over systematize things. This is actually a process of living in an Aristotelian world and being in the Western world, because do that every time I cut myself out of the stream. Anyways, the Western world, through the church, became highly systematized. The Eastern church didn't do that, not in the same way, at least. And so you get this Aristotelian sense of systematization and structure, and therefore everything has to be that. And you think about the polymath and how few there are today. See, we used to. I think my hair's drying. Let it down. Yeah. There we go. We used to praise the Renaissance man, the polymath, the everyman, the jack of all trade, master of none, which actually isn't the full saying. It's let me pull it up, because it actually does say that you have skills in some areas, but let's go here. Oh, quote. All right, let's see here. Where's that? A jack of all trades is a master of none, but oftentimes better than a master of one. So, yeah. Because the idea is that someone who is overly specialized, overly myopic, right, is going to make a mistake or miss something, or miss the bigger picture, because they have a lack of knowledge, frankly. And so I really embraced, and early on in my youth, the idea of the polymath and the Renaissance man. And I think it suits me as my my character, but that isn't for everybody. Some people are better at singly focused in on things, but yeah, that's kind of it's kind of how I approach this. But I appreciate the 20 either way, partner. And yeah, when the closing gets done, let me know. We'll figure out a day, and I hope you figured out the heat situation at the place, because it's not been stupid cold yet. I mean, it's got stupid cold, but only for a few days. It's actually been really warm. but I'm pretty sure about February it's going to get cold. So, let's keep going. Bill, about Rome, you could tell us more about that. Yeah. Well, you got to realize too, man. Like I say stuff to you guys, and sometimes I'm recalling from a very long time ago. I was talking to my wife last night about vaudeville, and she's like, I don't know what that is. And I'm like, oh yeah, it was like 1930s, blah, blah, blah. We were watching White Christmas, and I was like, these kind of movies are like a vestige of vaudeville. And my wife was like, how do you know this stuff? And it's like, because I took chorus for 2 years in middle school, and that was the curriculum, and I remember things. I don't know, but I don't always remember them perfectly. So I know a lot of Roman history because I took 2 years of Latin in high school. Had to translate a lot of ancient Roman. I mean, but I'm no expert. I'm no expert. Jack of all trades. It's warm enough here to check the mailbox shirtless and shorts. Yeah, I mean, I'm wearing a t-shirt today. I could probably wear shorts today. Myopic, that's your eyesight, Samuel. I'm kind of myopic too because I got a cataract in one eye. Let's see, you guys talking amongst each other. In ancient cricket burgers, bigots. It's engineered nourishment platforms fed intravenously to the living. Speaking of which, I did, before I get out of here, watch the new Matrix movie. And it wasn't the worst. I would agree that many of the critics so far, the YouTubers that do movie reviews, were pretty right about it. It's not overly woke, though Matrix was always had wokeness in it. It was good if you like the Matrix, but if you were just a fan of the first Matrix and you didn't really like the second or the third, you're probably not going to like this movie, although it's more reflective of the first movie. But they made weird choices and did weird things, although they did work it out. And they were self-aware, which I kind of did like. I thought it was fun that they were poking fun at themselves. But the problem was Agent Smith wasn't Agent Smith. Morpheus was some other dude. It wasn't Morpheus. And you didn't even need to bring either one of those characters back, per se. But they did. And then it was kind of like really slow and boring and whatever else. There's a lot of stuff that worked out. And it's not just the YouTubers, but my nephew, who's 14, he asked me the other day if I seen it when I thought about it. And we have HBO Max, so it was out Wednesday, and I was like, let's watch it. I know you're gonna want to watch it. Let's watch it. And talking to my wife. For me, I liked the third Matrix movie. A lot of people think it's terrible, and I'm not saying it's the best movie, but I actually really like it because not the overall thing of it. In fact, I think there's a good 20 minutes in the beginning I could cut out of it, like because it's absolutely pointless. But I like that movie because of the greater things, the depths of heroism, the ethics, everyone was working together. The faith in this thing, the sacrifice that Neo has to make in the Messiah story, the fact that they're almost taken, overwhelmed, and they end up winning. There's a kid that gets in one of the mech suits, the NPCs they call them, and has to take over. And I get it, that whole thing's supposed to be an emotional appeal, but that's what makes those kind of movies good. So I actually really like the third Matrix movie. I think the second one's kind of crap. I didn't think so when it first came out because, I was all excited and waiting for it. I mean, the Matrix was one of those things. I was in high school. I got out of school and my buddy and I drove straight to the theater to watch it because I saw the trailer and I was like, this looks like a cool movie. So, I got right out of school. We drove straight there and we watched it. And I was like, whoa, this was awesome. And they could have left it alone and it'd been great. But for years, people have been like, too bad they never made another Matrix movie. And they did. And, I mean, the Wachowskis, I don't know, are the most mentally stable individuals, given their change in gender. So, you know, and I don't know too many. Like V from Vendetta is pretty great. Atlas Cloud's all right. They've done some other stuff, but in any case, the new Matrix movie, if you're a Matrix fan, I would say is worth seeing. It is not going to look like the other Matrix movie. That's explained though because they're in a new Matrix. Not really giving away anything, but yeah, you know. And the worst of the worst of it was that the fight scenes were totally lame. They were made a little bit more realistic, but they were lame. They weren't Matrixy enough. So there's just stuff. There was cool ideas, cool concepts, but there was stuff. And yeah. So do what you want. You're allowed to like what you want. I don't think it was a bad or horrible movie. I think it was a movie that has some issues but could be easily fixed with proper editing. And they could have gone a different direction by getting Hugo Weaving if they wanted to reintroduce him, because they probably would have. They probably could have gotten him. Maybe they didn't want to pay a salary. I don't know. But they definitely could have gotten Lawrence Fishburne, because from what I understand, he said he was available for it. So, you know, it's whatever. And of course, Lawrence Fishburne's been working with Keanu on John Wick. So, but you know, not every movie, again, it's got to be great all the time. And it was fun. If they leave it be, if they try to make a new trilogy out of it, I'm gonna start doing movie reviews, and I'm gonna do nothing but trash The Matrix. Stop where you're at. Stop while you're ahead. Don't let it get any worse. Let's see. All right, you guys are talking about it. Yeah. Oil heat, all kinds of stuff. You guys are telling Holly. Okay, because I saw that in reverse. All right, well, I'm not going to go too far back. That is what Keanu is a Canadian god. Yeah, well, I mean, he's sort of Canadian, and he's more like, his mom's British, and, you know, I don't know what his dad is, but I'm pretty sure his mom's still, like, I've seen him do impersonations of his mother. I guess she's a very proper Brit. But I know there's a lot of Brits that live in Canada, and technically you guys are still part of the crown, so technically. Neo could only become the one because Trinity loved him. Right, and they kept that back in the story, which made it good, I thought. Not great, just made it good. Just made it good enough. They kept it consistent, because I was really, as soon as I saw new Matrix movie, this is going to be crap. How are you going to explain all this stuff away? But it kind of worked out. It doesn't really diminish the last Matrix movie ending either. It just opens up the possibility for a new chapter, which I don't want to see 2 more new Matrix movies, especially after that one. But it wasn't the worst, and it's not something I would necessarily recommend unless you're a fan. Some of the directors want to take it in a different direction and appease the newer generation. Yeah. All right, guys, let me check over in Entropy, make sure no one sent me in a late chat, and all right, all is good there. Go ahead and close that guy out. Well, thanks for watching, guys, and hung out here with me for nearly 4 hours today. That's pretty cool. I mean, I didn't stream this week, so and I'm not going to, if you guys missed it, if you don't go back and watch, I'm not going to stream this week because I'm starting a new job. I will stream Sunday. I will get back on the schedule. The new year will be new. Really adamant about keeping a schedule, and just things have come up. Holidays been around. It's been crazy. Dogs die. I mean, I had to cancel the Injustice the Memes because Tank's dog died. So, such is life. But anyways, I will be back next Sunday, regardless of what I'm doing during the week. Sunday will be going on. Although I can not do super long shows because I'll be working Sunday evenings as well. So, about 2 hours is generally where I'll have to cap it. And I still have a ton of Coof stuff, but you know, I need to eat dinner. I need to get some other stuff done around the house. I told my wife I was going to move some furniture around, try to do some home project stuff while she's gone, because when there's no baby around, it's easy to do that stuff. So that's that. Holly says, "Love you, Bill. May the new year bring you lots of new and exciting adventures." I just want to make enough money to go buy, my 2,000 acres of land. That's all. This job's not going to provide that kind of money, but a man can dream. All right, guys. I appreciate you being here so much. I'm going to try and be back on the It's Just for the Memes, and we'll work that out. Holly, if you're free, I'll text you after. But if you're free, you want to co-host with me, because Anti-Commie didn't say anything back to me, and I think he's working. But I don't know if Tank's available. I'm pretty sure he's not available this week. He didn't sound like he was going to be. So, anyways, guys, I appreciate you all. This has been AllMinusOne. My name is Bill, and I wish you all well.